Hello and welcome to an emergency edition of the Lorefield Podcast. It's episode 22. My heart's palpitating. I haven't stopped smiling all day. In case you haven't heard, Bethesda has broken its months-long silence on Starfield and given us not just a date for the second showcase, but an actual release date and heaps of new gameplay and hints about the main quest. I'm your co-host Mitch, joined as always by our wonderful co-host Lexi.
Hello.
We're also joined once again by, I think we can say now, our de facto third co-host, the fabulous Red Wolf.
Hi, thank you. Back again. Back at it again, Dan.
Back again, and making his debut on the Lorefield Podcast, but a seasoned Bethesda podcasting veteran, producing much of the most recent Starfield commentary out there and seasoning it with a fantastic sense of humor, the man who Todd Howard himself once called absolutely and unequivocally a YouTuber, the one and only Damarcodude.
Hello, salutations, my good friends, and thank you for having me. This is fun.
Absolutely.
I also, for what it's worth, I thought you were gonna say, when you said my heart is palpitating, I thought you were gonna say my heart is palpitating, and
Yeah,
I just would have found that
brain.
hysterical because we were talking about like Jedi Survivor just a little bit before you started to hit the record button.
All right.
I would have lost my shit. Sorry.
Well,
Whoopsie.
I think it was palpitating in the months-long silence because I was aging very rapidly while we were nothing.
Yeah.
But normally now is the time when we would ask you, DeMarco, our first-time guest, about your personal history with Bethesda Game Studios. But given the extenuating circumstances of this episode with, the new video and the new dates and stuff, we're going to talk about all that first, and we're going to push your story back to after our discussion of all the new information. Do stay tuned for that, though, because it's one of my favorite things that we do on the show. Very personal and fun to talk about. But as promised, we've got news to discuss. On March 8th, Bethesda bestowed upon us the official Starfield launch date announcement, the first half of which you heard at the top of the show. It's a 2-minute, 40-second video that gave us a date for the Starfield Direct, which is June 11th, but it also went a step further and gave us the launch date, September 6th. And that's the first thing I'm going to ask you all about. Obviously, there's been an unspoken delay pushing it into the second half of this year to September 6th. Damarcodude, we'll start with you. What are we thinking about Starfield's new release date, September 6th?
So it's a double-layered question, isn't it? I was thinking about this a lot, actually, because there's two layers to it. The first is, like, what do we think about just the release date as it stands on its own? Or what do we think about the delay? The fact that it was pushed back into the second half of the year, which ties into the release date. Or both. Are we talking about them, like, codependently or independently?
That's a great question, and I think you just out-IQ'd me a little bit. But
Do both.
primarily the date itself, but also the fact that it means another delay. Yeah.
Okay, so the date itself, I mean, listen, the date is what it is, right? I don't think anybody with who's gonna speak about it like rationally has a problem with the date, because September 6th, like, great. I think the biggest thing for me is that we have something concrete to look forward to, because a lot of the discussion leading up to Starfield or up until this point realistically has been, we need something, like, we need to know what's going on. Bethesda put out these Q&A videos. Great. We get one, then another one a month and 3 quarters later, and then just nothing. Like,
Nothing.
Okay, cool. They did the same thing with the Into the Starfield videos. Like, we got some inconsistently and then just gone. So now we have definitive dates, definitive things to attach to. So for that reason, September 6th, like, sick. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And it clears out. I think the only competition that might fall in that window would probably be possibly Spider-Man 2, I think, is the current rumor going around. So, and now you're talking about 2 separate platforms, because obviously Sony exclusive and Microsoft PC, Xbox Game Pass, all that stuff. So 2 technically, I put air quotes around that, different audiences, but not really, because we're all gamers at the end of the day. As for the delay, I've seen, and I'm sure that all of you have seen it too, which I'm curious about your thoughts on it, which is some people genuinely upset. I don't know if it's upset at Bethesda or upset at Microsoft, because Microsoft, like, what is going on with Microsoft's deadlines, especially when you consider the fact that the whole showcase from E3 last year was all these games are releasing in the first 12 months, and then their biggest one is now not, they failed to hit that deadline of it's releasing in 12 months. I don't care at all. Like, if it's another 3 months, which whoop-de-doo. I can wait 3 months. It doesn't affect me. And on top of that, I think the great thing is that we have the bridged gap of, on June 11th, the Starfield showcase. So for me, delay doesn't matter because Bethesda and Microsoft understand the importance of this game coming out right. And I think the real problem that people should be focusing on is the longer it takes for Starfield to come out, the higher the expectations are. Because this second delay means everyone's going to be expecting another layer of polish to it. That maybe it will be there, maybe it's going to be on par with what we've seen with past Bethesda games. Whether that's okay with you, that's up to the individual. I personally never really had huge problems with their bugs, but I might have just gotten lucky.
There's no way of knowing how well it's been polished compared to how well it would have been polished if it released earlier, if that makes sense. So I don't think that's a question we'll ever know the answer to, but I think we will certainly get a better game having it a little later. Wolf, what are you thinking about September 6th?
So first of all, I 100% agree with you, DeMarco, because I saw people being like, "Oh, it's got delayed. We got the release date," and then people are like, "I can't believe it got delayed." I'm like, okay. They said first half, right? Okay, first half. That's June, right? That's the deadline. It got delayed 3 months. So 3 months for me, and this is just me, so maybe there's a different take that people have on this. When they said that Starfield was delayed, for me, it was delayed indefinitely. We didn't know the release date. So I was like, hell, it could come out next November for all I know. And then people kept saying, I hope it doesn't get delayed again. Well, and this is before we knew the release date, right? So, and a lot of people were saying, I hope it doesn't get delayed again. I'm like, it is delayed, period. So no matter what release date we get, that is the release. That is the release date. It is not delayed again. But I do understand when people say delayed again because they said first half, which is essentially June. So having said all that, I'm really excited. I'm just happy. I feel like I'm just going to echo everything that DeMarco said. I am just happy that we now have something to look for. It's 6 months away. Isn't that crazy? It could be a year away, dude. I'm just happy that we have something to actually look forward to instead of sitting here with our thumbs in our ears. I almost said the other word, but now we know.
Here's a question though that poses, because I actually got this comment on. I talked about my thoughts on this whole thing, but the question is, if let's just say this got pushed back into mid, somebody said, oh, what if it got pushed into 2025? You'd be saying the same exact thing. Now that's obviously a bit hyperbolic, but if it had gotten pushed into 2024, would you still be saying the same things? Because I think at that point, if it's all right, March 2024, that's the new release date. Does that change your perspective on it all? Is that still acceptable?
I can't lie. I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, actually, no. It would have changed it because I know people say delay. Delay it as much as you can until we get a much better product. And I know that Bethesda, hinging on their, whenever it comes to their reputation of being Bugthesda and all that, I feel like now being responsible with what happened with Halo, Starfield is now inherently responsible for being the new flagship, or as I say, the new Starship title for Xbox. And it's really important for them to try to eliminate the assumption that Bethesda is going to continue to come out buggy and whatever.
Especially with Creation Engine 2.0.
Right, exactly. So,
I think there's another expectation there with the brand new engine.
Exactly, and we'll talk about what we saw behind Todd's beautiful right shoulder, because I saw some things that definitely made me think, wow, quality. And it's just little stuff, but anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent. But yes, so it would have hurt me more. This release date didn't hurt me. I wasn't like, man. I was like, yeah. I was like through the roof. 6 months. What are people bitching about? Sorry, but
you're good.
So that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Who edits these?
What's that?
Who edits the podcast?
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that.
Oh, okay. So more work for you then. It's fine.
You can send it to me because I was gonna put the audio from the new video over the top or at the beginning as a special intro. So yeah. Just dude, you don't have to edit the whole.
Can I give an unpopular opinion though?
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
I kind of like Bugthesda.
Oh yeah.
Like a charm.
On
dude.
the
Like
on the
James-
we would not have gotten like the fact like the giant that's a bug in Skyrim, the giant flinging you into the air. It's
Lex
a
is
bug they
about to
kept in.
play. I already know what she's gonna do. There was the dragon in your background that you had there for a minute, flipping around, flap. Yeah, I'm wonderful.
Like, listen, I'm jumping into the game. I don't want to see that stuff, but like when I do see it, it's just I laugh.
Right.
Now, if it breaks your
I'm
save,
done.
if it breaks your save and you've been putting 50, like not even if you put 20 hours into a game and then suddenly it's like bam, you can't like. I had a bug where, and this was due to mods, it wasn't even Bethesda's fault, but let's just say it was, right? Where every time in Skyrim I tried to get to Winterhold, no matter whenever I got close, the game would crash. And now that, again, not Bethesda's fault, that was a mod that I had installed that was breaking the game or a combination thereof, but that's frustrating. But something like the dragons flipping out, or like in Fallout 4, you see them going around in the T-pose with their head's gone and they're moving. Like, this is funny to me. I'm sorry. Some like Fallout 76 where enemies can't die.
Yeah, it's a little,
you know,
game-breaking stuff is not
like there's a line.
As easily forgettable. Yeah, or forgivable.
There's a line. Yeah. And I think most of the time, generally speaking, Bethesda doesn't cross that. Like they get the game-breaking ones mostly out.
Right. I've been fortunate. I've never maybe I remember playing Morrowind, and that was a long time ago. But I had a glitch where I would try to exit the cave in Raven's oh god, it's
Raven Rock.
Yes, thank you. In Raven Rock, when you try to exit the cave after mining the
What's my Skyrim lore?
Saying yes, and I am too. I'm like, why the fuck? Okay. Anyway, sorry. God. Yeah, I would try to exit the cave, and it would just give me a black screen, like, forever. Like, there was just literally nothing I could do, especially back then. Yeah, that kind of stuff is just not... what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But I do agree. There is, like, a charm to it, where, like, you just see a bug happen, and you're like, huh. Anyway, because more games are sort of focused on, like, the world and the exploration and the cinematic. So whenever it's super hyper-focused on the cinematic aspect, and then a glitch happens, and you're like, what? Like, if Kratos' head was, like, spinning around in like, the middle of a cutscene, you'd be like, okay. I would still laugh, you know, but, you know.
It's a good example.
Yeah.
Lexi, got to get your take. We've got a date now. What are you thinking?
I think it's great. And look, it's going to be the shortest released window for a showcase to release. It's going to be 3 months.
Look at you
That's
using your
great
big wrinkly
perspective.
brain over there.
Exactly, yeah. I think it was 4
No,
months, right?
It was borderline 5 months, but it was 4 months
Fallout
technically.
4.
Can you count that? Can you count that though, realistically, since we've gotten the Microsoft Bethesda, like the full 30? Like, I know what you're saying. I do understand the point you're making, but like, is it a strong argument considering we've seen Starfield? I don't know how many months ago, like...
We'll just pretend they were the teaser trailers for Fallout 4.
Yeah, here you go. Here you go. Yeah.
I think that depends on how deep the second showcase goes, because it could go so deep that last year's showcase looks like nothing, or it could go to about the same level of depth, and we've effectively got two showcases.
Are we doing showcase predictions at all, or that's for a later podcast?
Probably for a later podcast. We could get a new video between now and then or something. Who knows? I doubt it, but
My cat is just like...
There were those rumors, if you all recall, about Microsoft really wanting to get the game out in the first half of this year, and Bethesda saying, no, we need to get this out in the second half. Bethesda won out, but September to me seems kind of like a compromise. They didn't want to release the game in July or August, I wouldn't think. And October, November is getting really later in the holiday season. So I think September is like a nice middle ground that maybe they could both be happy. I don't know. It's just something I thought of.
Yeah, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, what, you know, I think some people understand and some people don't is I have no insight. I've never worked in the games industry, so maybe I'm completely off on this, but it's going to amount to deadlines, right? So they need to hit certain milestones, and if they're not reaching those, then the game needs to be pushed back. You know, there's a discussion to be had as to whether or not this delay is hinged on the fact that the game is in such an irredeemable state that it needs the extra 3 months, or it's just going to be a disaster, which I strongly don't. I've seen that around on social media. I don't think that's the case. There's the other side of it where it's genuinely this game just needs to come out as polished as it can. And this will allow us to not have to cut a certain feature because we can make sure that it's polished and working before the launch. Or this extra 3 months will give us the time to improve the performance of the game. It might not even be like a bug thing. It might just be the actual performance of the game. Because, right, Xbox is helping to make sure that the game is working for Xbox. It's an Xbox title now. So that they can have their Xbox engineers or team members come in and help out to optimize it further for those systems. And I think that's generally where this extra 3 months would go. But there is a concern to be had, like, is it really that bad that they need to push it back a second time? Which again, I don't personally agree with, but I see where people might bank on that from,
Yeah, then there's also the thing where because Mitch, whenever you say compromise, on one hand, it is like they sort of force themselves into a corner that I don't think they ever should have said. They shouldn't have made any promises to begin with. But now, because Redfall is so close, now they have two big first-party exclusives that are they can't put those things back to back. So now they had to wait for, was it May? Is it May 29th? I think is whenever Redfall drops. And then we have May, June, July, August, September. So then 4 months. So Redfall at that point would have been well played, and the hype is gone. Not to say that it's dead, you know what I mean. But to put those games back to back, I think they did shove themselves in a corner where they had to make a decision, and they didn't want to lose any bad faith either. And they say we have to choose if we put these games back to back, or if we say sorry, here's 3 extra months. And you just had to wait 3 months, and you get your Redfall, and then you get your Starfield. So yeah, I can see both sides of that.
I'm happy with the decision though.
I am
I think
too.
all of us are in agreement. Yeah,
6 months, like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people have been waiting 10 years, so 6 months is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell that to Elder Scrolls fans, man. Wait 10 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll be waiting 20 years.
I'm a game developer now technically, and bear in mind I'm only a writer. It's an indie game, so it's not like I'm working for EA or something
Even
like
better,
that.
man. Indie games are where innovation happens. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, I mean I get pretty much limited resource to do what I want. Well, not resource because I'm not paid, but
Spoil the game, man. All of it. Here, spill it.
Spill it right now.
Hey, I've got an NDA. I can't say anything.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad.
But what I can say is, with game development, you don't know if you can meet a deadline until the game's almost out. So, them saying 12 months ago, this is coming in the next 12 months, it's still a big window where you can't predict, can they actually make that window? Or will it have to get pushed out just a little bit? Because they're not going to know until it's almost time. So they're probably at the stage where they're like, right, content's done, let's focus on the final polishing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's so unpredictable too. I know that, like, Phil Spencer came out in an interview where he was mentioning how he thinks the delays due to everything, like the current the current global status of things. I don't know if it's still like a taboo YouTube word, but we know what I'm talking about. He said that we kind of overcame that hump that had happened, and yet you see something like Star Wars Jedi Survivor that had a 3-month window. Like, it was announced in December, coming out in January or March, and it got pushed back to April. So they even had like this incredibly short release window, and still it hit a snag where they're like, no, we need to push it back. Sorry. So it can happen at any point too. It's so uncertain.
What were they trying to avoid? Because I remember Jedi. Something got announced, and then they were like, we're gonna move it. Oh, it was Redfall. That's what it was, right? That's what happened. It was Redfall. It was Jedi Survivor was coming out in May, right? And then
March.
Redfall got in March.
It's coming out March.
Redfall's
It got pushed into April. No, Survivor was coming out March, got pushed to April.
What was it? Something. I remember talking about it on my show. I don't know. I don't want to.
It's not Starfield.
It's not Starfield. No, they don't have to worry about that. But no, something happened. Something got announced. I'll just have to look at my list and see what it was. But something got announced, and then they moved it. Yeah, up closer. Am I confused? I think I'm confused. Yeah, let's see. Suicide Squad, Diablo 4. I don't know what it was. You know what? I'm sorry. Please continue. I don't know. Lex, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Everybody just stay silent so we could wallow in the
Yeah,
embarrassment.
I'm just sitting here just like, hang on, let me do calculus. Yeah.
I think what gamers like don't realize is how much like NDAs they can't really talk about it. Like you just get generic PR because if they said something, they get fired, and then they've got a leak on their hands. They've got to change things behind the scenes. That's cost money. That's generally why leaks are bad, because they have to change things, which is never good. But people just need to learn patience. Whether you could see it in a Starfield countdown server where everyone's like, "Today's the day. We're gonna get news today," and then nothing happens because they're just building hype out of boredom. But what I think is important to remember is there are other games in the world. Starfield isn't the only game. Have you speculation? That's always fun. But saying Bethesda and Microsoft are having a bad marketing cycle and they don't know what they're doing.
You're touching on such a point that I want to scream in every one of my videos. Like, keep going. Just...
Yeah, they don't understand how it works. What are they supposed to tell you exactly? Oh, they're just going to give you the same generic PR every time you ask something. So just wait until they're ready. Like, you've got other stuff to play. They're not handling it poorly. It's just you're being impatient with it.
Are Bethesda, this is where my thing, is Bethesda, they are doing, I'm not going to even ask the question, they are doing incredible marketing, because how many people, there's nothing about the game for months, and how many people are talking about it? How many people are checking social media or Reddit or whatever?
Look at Reddit. I was going to say, just go to Reddit and you're like, do you think we'll be able to flush out the toilets with our mind or with our shoe? Or like, it's like, it just markets itself. Yeah.
You think they're doing bad marketing? They're geniuses. They're marketing efficient. And I know, like, not in the traditional sense, like, it's not what people want to hear. And realistically, at the end of the day, like, that is a part of marketing, like letting that suspense build, letting that anticipation rise, letting your community discuss and debate and talk about it and wonder. And if you have them coming, and I understand we're talking
Star
about
Wars. So you know how that goes. It could be, it's great. No, regardless, it's great. I want you to continue your point. All I wanted to say was just that when it comes to something as big as Star Wars, people are like, what's going to happen in episode 8? I don't bring that up, but and then they speculate about it forever and ever and ever. And then they finally get it, and either they're happy or they're not. But we know Bethesda has the Bethesda template, as I call it. We know what we're getting. And maybe, DeMarco, maybe you can understand what I'm saying when I say this. The Bethesda template, we know what we're getting, except every time it's going to be elevated, hopefully. So you have Morrowind, first and third person. When you hit the B button, it's going to take you into your inventory. You know that this button's going to do this because it did it in the previous game. Fallout, the same thing. It's the same first and third person template. Now it's elevated. Now it's better graphics, different world. And then Skyrim, you know what I'm trying to say? So we sort of knew what we were going to get with Starfield, and that definitely helps with the hype because people knew what they were getting with what they love from BGS specifically. That did build the hype. So you're absolutely right. It markets itself because they do such a good job consistently with what people love.
Yeah, listen, I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. Like, we all want to hear more, but at the end of the day, you're talking about it. Like, you are talking about the game. That's helping spread word about it. And I know we're talking about in the grand scheme of things, because you look at some of these massive channels. I mean, like, million subscribers, 600,000, 700,000 plus subscribers, whatever it is. And you see that they talk about They never really talk about Starfield, but they do. And then you look at like the comments and how people kind of discuss the game and their own feed and in those communities. And it's not like what you see in something like Lorefield, right? Because everyone here is very dedicated to the game. They know exactly that this is their interest. So we are talking about a minutia of the grand community, but if that is at all indicative of things outside of that, then yeah, their marketing is getting you to talk about it. That's what marketing is. Spreading word, like awareness, raising people talking about the game, the marketing. So anyway, thank you, Lexi, for bringing up that point.
I think if anything, the fans are the best marketers of the game. I mean, just look at what we've been doing for a couple of years. Like, we just talk about this game that doesn't even exist yet. And one of the things the fans were talking about was whether they might pick a date that has like special significance. Like in 2019, they tweeted on the anniversary of the moon landing. So then that sent everybody into a like 3-year tizzy. Maybe they're going to release the game on like Space Day or something. And September 6th.
They were still saying that, weren't they?
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
coming around again, they were still saying that.
Oh yeah, that was still a talking point up, just until we got this date today. And September 6th doesn't seem to be like a significant day in space history. It is the anniversary of the American Astronomical Society, founded in 1899. So if you really want to reach that far, you can. But it seems like that they just picked a date purely
That's
for
actually the whole plot. Todd Howard told me that's actually the plot of the game. This mystery we're uncovering is the Astronomical Society. That's what we're exploring is them.
Right.
And
The
they're
Illuminati of space.
So that's why it's releasing September 6th.
yeah, it's gonna be like Wolfenstein. If you played the new Wolfenstein games with the dot you should. That's what the Astronomical Society was. They were actually that secret seedy organization. There you go. Sorry for spoiling. This is why Bethesda
Now we
doesn't
know what
invite
to
me to their events.
Broke your NDA, you're under
No,
arrest.
shit, Todd. Sorry.
Please put the
Go
gun
back in
down,
the
Todd.
attic.
I won't say anymore. Oh, that's not what the game's about. I'd love to hear your predictions at some point. Maybe not this episode though, but about your predictions of what you guys think is going on.
Oh, they're coming. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
September 6th, oddly, is a Wednesday. That's unusual, is it not? Usually Tuesday or Friday. is what they do.
Fallout 76, I believe, launched on a Wednesday.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so. Hang on, just let me double check.
Interesting. I remember being a the Insider.
Yes, it did. It launched on November 14th, 2018. That's a Wednesday. There you go.
That's
I
very
wouldn't-
interesting.
I wouldn't look too much into it personally. Like I know it's strange for game releases, but it's I don't think there's any, like Fallout 76 didn't have any significance behind it launching on a Wednesday, right? So I wouldn't attribute anything extra to it here. But that is strange for a game. They're
Sure.
usually Thursdays or Tuesdays. I always get confused between films and movies.
Fridays and Tuesdays is
Fridays
games.
and Tuesdays
Thursdays
games.
is Thursdays and
Yeah.
Tuesdays is movies. Yeah.
Okay.
Tuesday's usually the big like content drop.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember Grand Theft Auto Online DLCs used to launch on Tuesdays. That was the big content update day. I just said day twice.
Content day.
But when I suppose no kid's gonna be playing it until the afternoons, so that's like usually if it's like a Friday, then all the younger audiences like don't have to go to college or school, so
Younger?
they have the whole weekend.
Younger man, I got a full-time job. I needed to come out near the weekend.
That's what I'm saying. Even my
I've known for
I'm more
years
busy
I've-
on my weekends than I am. I don't know. It's you know how it goes. But yeah, I'm with you. I need time.
I have too much free time. I'm gonna sweat Starfield. I will be streaming it and I will be sweating it.
God, just be.
Yeah, now I'm
I've
nervous
just
to
got a
take off, like,
3070,
Nervous
so
to take.
I'm ready.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Nice. Wow. Are you referencing pitch
What am
meeting?
What is it?
Pitch meeting? Was that a pitch meeting reference?
Maybe accidentally. I
Wow,
haven't watched
wow,
pitch
wow.
meeting in
Wow.
wow. No, I haven't watched him in so long. Oh my god, I
Oh,
love that
man.
dude. I have
You would have
not-
been my best friend if that was what you were doing.
I think I did. Like, like subconsciously. I've seen every single one of them. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and get right off my back? Okay, I'll get off of that thing. Like I've seen all of them. He's so funny. Anyway, Ryan George, shout out, friend of the show. No, not really, but
He also called me a YouTuber. Todd Howard and Ryan George both said I was a YouTuber.
That's incredible. That's incredible. You're just like, yeah. So,
Is that your recommendation for today?
As far as YouTubers go,
pitch
like, if I had to make an actual suggestion, well, they're actually just called Viva La Dirt League.
Oh God, yes, dude. I love
Viva La
that.
Dirt, which now they're massive. A lot of people probably know who they like. It's not cool to be like, I watch Viva La Dirt League. Like they're not like the new kids on the block anymore.
Yes.
And I'm not even gonna be like, I was watching them when they were like no,
but I
caught up
was
to them.
Yep, but you can still say it.
But they're absolutely hysterical. And if anybody's ever wanted to like watch, like obviously D&D's grown massive, which I play. I mean, I have my D12, the player handbook's right there. Like, nice. I run my own games. So I love it. But like, what do you have? You have Critical Role, completely tangential. I'm sorry. Should I stop?
No, Vox Machina. We just started season 1 over again with my girlfriend, and she is like loving, because Critical Role was funded, crowdfunded that show from their. Yeah, I love everything that you're saying. I'm with you. Yeah.
Critical Role is like fake D&D, I would say. It's not like real, because there's a lot of like staging that goes on to make things and make stuff work the way it does. But if you watch like NPC D&D, which is Viva La Dirt League's D&D, that's like a lot more naturally. The DM saves the characters because they're legacy characters. They don't want anything to happen to them, but it's a lot more raw, I would say.
Yeah.
Still performative for entertainment purposes, but a lot more raw, like real D&D should be.
Mm-hmm.
Like D&D should be people in their basement, like hanging around, like roll dice.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Push upper classes. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Shamelessly,
magic missile.
Right.
Anyway, Starfield.
Yeah. Starfield's a game that we're talking about.
When's your Starfield D&D campaign happening? That's the real question.
Oh, maybe there'll be a board game. There was for the last 2 single-player games.
No, don't say it. You're going to give Todd ideas.
Have you played the Skyrim board game? It's actually really good.
I heard it's great. Yeah.
Man, it's not on my shelves. I spent like 4 hours just running around, like explore, like what you would do in Skyrim. Like, oh, main quest, save my son. Forget that. Like,
exactly.
Going and getting loot, man. That's what I did for 4 hours. I played the game solo. I played the game.
Sorry, welcome to the Red Wolf and Damarco show. Dude,
I'll just leave. You guys can do your podcast.
No, because I could go. I'm about to go because you're going on a tangent, which I'm like yes, and then I'm going on a tangent. But that is the thing, because this is going to tie back into Starfield. That is the thing that Bethesda does so well, because their games are like immortalized. I tweeted out something today, and I said, someone's like, "Oh, I'm worried about Spider-Man 2 coming out near Starfield," because I'm like, okay, shut up.
Two different games, man. Two different games.
2 different platforms, 2 different games. And I tweeted and I said, Spider-Man 2, 40 hours, finish campaign. Starfield, 40 hours, just finish making my character. And it's true when it comes to like Bethesda games in general. Like, how many characters have we made? You don't just play the game, you know what I mean? Like,
I've never finished Skyrim. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I've not, because I just like making new characters.
Exactly.
I enjoy that as much as playing the game.
Yeah, same.
Yes.
I can't imagine not playing Skyrim and not beating it.
I've never beaten it. I've never beaten it.
You've never beaten it.
Never beaten that or the DLCs. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's up like Divinity Original Sin, probably #1 RPG ever. Original Sin 2. In fact, if any of you guys want to play that game, I just started a new playthrough. I need people to do it with. But
yes, I'll join you.
Nice. But Skyrim, Oblivion, then probably Skyrim right up there, because I lean more towards Elder Scrolls and the fantasy than I do the sci-fi stuff. Which Starfield still looks. People think I hate space games, which isn't true. I don't understand why they think that though. But yeah, never beaten it. In fact, it took me until maybe after Skyrim release to beat Oblivion's main quest line.
Wow.
Oh wow.
But you're doing what they want you to do. It's a sandbox. It's your world. You do whatever you want. As soon as you're left out of the prison or whatever, the boat, the prison, whatever, you can just be like, I don't want to do anything that you're telling me to do. I'm just gonna do whatever I want and role play, and that's what they do so well. Like games just don't do that. I don't know. They just don't do that. Man.
There's no game like a Bethesda game. It's really so true.
Yeah.
Like the closest you can get to it still isn't close. You know, I can't think of anything that's comparable.
I've played Skyrim that much that Skyrim seems like it's got infinite content. It like take out all the guilds and just leaving the side quests. You've literally got a 40-hour game. That's it. Like everything is a quest line. That's like gonna take you a long time. And the world, like the Easter eggs, and you're building your house, stuff like that. That's gonna keep you engaged. But most of Skyrim's quests are just quest lines.
Anyway, Starfield.
Sorry, I was laughing at Mitch. Mitch knows what I was laughing at. Your roommate was just like, whatever. Anyway, Starfield, yes. And I was kidding about the Red Wolf and DeMarco show, just so you know. But man, yeah, I feel like you and I could just have a show of our own, man. Oh my God. Anyway,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm taking your co-host.
Dude, anyway, we'll get you on my show sometime if you want. Maybe watch it first and then decide. Mitch knows it gets crazy. I'm crazy. Mitch, you're the host. I'm not the host. Go ahead. Sorry.
Dude, you're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to hijack your show or make you feel like
it's like instinct. I'm like, anyway.
Sorry about that. By the way, I usually go to like a building on campus to record, but I also usually record at 5 a.m, so there's like no one there. But there wasn't a single open room, so I'm doing it in my dorm today.
Oh, that's how I started YouTube as well.
Oh, really?
I went to a private room that actually ended up getting locked. I think they knew I was going in there. And I would go to this private room on my college campus, and I set up with like little foam pads. I would just stack them. I put up a little microphone, which was actually this one, on a tiny tripod, and I just would record. And at the time, I only did audio. That's when my channel was not Damarcodude. It was something different. But that's how I started. Yeah, I would sneak into private teachers' lounges to record videos.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's resonate with that. I usually use classrooms. They give us 24-hour access, but
nice.
Yeah. So now we've pretty extensively talked about the release date. We also have the June 11th showcase, and well, the main thing I'm wondering with this is what else is there to show? How much is too much? And then I also have kind of a bigger question, whether Starfield being a larger game with more content justifies revealing more of it before launch. I'm curious what you all think about that. So I don't know what we want to tackle first. Maybe let's go with the first one. What else is there to show? What else might we see?
I can tell you right off. Todd, can we walk around the inside of our ship while it's in space? I'm never going to let this down. I want to know.
I think that's the 4th episode we've heard this from you, but it's a valid question.
I agree. You could do it in Mass Effect Andromeda. It was one of the coolest things in Mass Effect Andromeda. See the planet outside your freaking window, and you can see outside windows, because if you go to the trailer, the big gameplay showcase, and you see the part where the ramp's coming down and Vasco's walking down the ramp, you could see outside the windows. Unlike a lot of past Bethesda games, you can't do that. So let me do it in space. I agree. You're right.
Yes, and Mitch, is that not the first game that I compared it to? I said you can do it in Mass Effect.
You did, yeah.
What the hell?
And it was sick in Andromeda.
Yeah.
You're 2 peas in a pod. This is fun to watch.
So that's. But I'm sorry. Keep going, Mitch. But that is the one thing I want to know.
No, I mean I opened it to the floor. I mean, just kind of. I guess we'll go further into predictions when we're closer, but just in a broader scope, like what else is there to see? Because we've seen a little bit of settlements, we've seen some combat, we've seen some planets. There's got to be systems they're hiding from us. Not systems as in star systems, but game systems that we don't know about. Like, go deeper into crafting. They don't want to go into quest content. So I just kind of in that area, that's where I'm thinking like what else we might see.
I think that
Lexi, I saw your face light up. I'm curious what you had to say.
If you go back to Skyrim, the demo is Bleak Falls, the first dungeon, and in Fallout 4 they showed the tutorial. They cut out Codsworth's dialogue quite a lot. There's no mention of Sean, obviously. I've talked about that before. T45 is T60. and they even give it a jetpack for the compilation song. They changed a lot.
Yeah, and to add on to
for
that,
their
you could-
demos.
you could go back to like Skyrim when you see the dragon on Bleak Falls Barrow. But like obviously when you play it's not there.
Yeah, that's actually in the files. It's called a demo. It's called the Bleak Falls demo. But I believe that was going to be the original Bleak Falls exit. Was going to be on this like fort, I guess. Because they did a whole YouTube series for Skyrim, didn't they? Like tutorials.
I don't remember tutorials, but
I was
Mitch, you're nodding your
gameplay.
head. Sounds like it's ringing a bell.
It might have been post-launch. I think there was something though.
Yeah.
Remember,
They show. Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, they tend to show the beginning, but any heavy spoilers they cut out. They just show the introduction, so we might get, when we're not in Constellation, we're a part of Argos mining, and we enter the cave, we touch the artifact, and they'll cut somewhere else.
Right.
So we don't get the answer, or we wake up and we will, like, it cuts to after the vision, like they don't show us the vision. They might do that, and then cut to Constellation. Maybe we'll learn more about Vasco. I just imagine the tutorial.
Yeah, I remember. All I was gonna say was that when Skyrim was when its trailers were coming out, I saw the trailer for Skyrim on the 360 like video. You could like download the videos that they came out, and that was the I'll never forget downloading that. I remember downloading like Paramore's song Decode, and remember like the Alan Wake live action movie that came out before the game launched.
Do you mean like on the Xbox 360 marketplace?
Yeah,
where you
that's
could
where I saw-
download the
Yeah,
HD videos. Yeah.
that's where I saw the trailer for Skyrim for the first time. That was there. Was Todd saying, "And you see that mountain over there? Yep, you sure can. You can go right up there."
So how'd you like it in 240p?
Oh, dude, it's so bad. Yeah, it's. I would like to go back and see, just because my brain is like, the nostalgia goggles or whatever.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
that's what I was gonna say was, because when you said I'm sure they're not gonna show quest content, I feel like what Lex was saying is a good example. They didn't really show the whole of Bleak Falls Barrow. They just sort of got to a certain point, cut, and that space that they cut was for you to experience. And so they could show something like you run into, they show you fly, land, you get off, similar to Crete, and then you get off, and then you have more dialogue that happens, and you make a choice, and then it cuts to what happens because you made that choice, and then they go, let's take a look and see what could have been, and then they show a longer version of that. Something like that, not too spoilery. I can't imagine them doing an entire full all the way through quest showing that kind of stuff, but I would like to see that in like more systems or gameplay features and stuff. I just can't imagine what they haven't shown already. Maybe like companions.
I think I could sum up exactly what you're trying to say, actually.
Okay.
Which is that they've shown us a lot, which is great. And if you think about it, if you really sit down and reflect, we've basically seen almost huge air quotes around this. Almost everything Starfield has to offer in a way, right? Because we've seen the settlement building, the ship crafting, we've seen the weapon customization, we've seen the bits of combat, we've seen that how stealth works. Like, there's all of these things that they've shown us, all these systems. And what Starfield has left to show is how all of these different systems interact seamlessly with one another. That is the missing piece, because we have chunks of different things, but we don't see it all in one fluid motion. We see what New Atlantis looks like, and we see this little snippet of them walking through it, but we don't see the day-to-day action of the player going through, how the NPCs respond to you as you do so,
100%,
how you get back to your ship, how you go from your ship to space, how you go from space to finding the planet. Like, we see the snippet of here's point of interest on the planets and the maps, right? But we don't see how do they find that. So how these systems actually connect with one another to correlate, to make a cohesive identity that is Starfield, a cohesive experience, is what they have left to show. And I think that's what Skyrim's demo did really well. I think that's what Fallout's demo did really well. And I think that everybody, I feel like, kind of unanimously stated they should not show the opening moment the way they did with Fallout coming out the lift. That was, I hated that. I hated that they did that. So, I don't know why Bethesda likes to show you the introduction of the game, whether it's Bleak Falls Bower or the lift, but, I think they could still do that in Starfield, and that's what we need to witness to truly understand what this game is.
Yeah, and those point-to-points... I'm sorry, Lex, go ahead. I can't shut up.
No, something just popped in my head. I forgot. We don't know the villain of Starfield.
Oh, yeah?
Right, yeah.
They could drop...
Yeah,
the thing is, in...
Todd Howard, man.
He's gonna be in the game somehow.
His main villain.
I cannot wait for Easter eggs, dude. Oh,
he comes out in the Napoleon outfit that he had in the Fallout 4 paintings of him
painting,
the painting. Yeah, that he comes out in that outfit. He's the antagonist.
Found, sir.
It's a whole race of Todd Howards. That's the ancient alien race we get to find.
Exactly. It's like it just works. It just works. It's just like the mime from but they just keep saying it just works, and they're like walking at you with their eyes like, yeah, that'd be great. Sorry, Lex.
I hope they're not the villains because I'll side with them.
Exactly. Well, I can't zoom in with mine, but I have one lens. I'm gonna screw it up if I mess with it. But
who's gonna be the villain? Like generic evil CEO. I've already predicted Constellation are gonna be the bad guys.
That prediction is really interesting, and I can't stop thinking about that. DeMarco, well, Lex, you tell him what your prediction was.
So, we know they're the last group of space explorers, right? Why are they the last? Like, my theory is that they kind of drove out the competition, and they're pretty much the dominant last space explorers. Like, they can show
economical villain, not necessarily like a
So,
tyrannical. Like it's an economic competition.
Yeah, so the artifacts you're collecting, you're actually helping them achieve their ultimate goal.
Haven't they actually kind of stated this though? Maybe somebody remembers, you're the last group of space explorers because everyone else is kind of settled. Like they're fine with what they've discovered, I think is something that has been stated at one point.
That seems contrary to human nature.
It does, but that's why Constellation exists. It's because those are the people that are still dreaming about it, versus most folks. Like, you have Neon, New Atlantis, you have obviously tons of spaceports outside of those, and settlements and smaller villages that might have colonized some planets, and that's fine. Like, we did it.
It seems profitable though, because Constellation, they've got a nice headquarters. In New Atlantis,
profitable in the same way that like a Tomb Raider is profitable, like Nathan Drake is profitable. Maybe,
I mean, look, they've got a nice library. They're in an expensive, nice part of New Atlantis, I guess. They've got the assets, so they're not as. I don't know if it's like retro. I guess, would it be retro in the Starfield universe? It's 300 years. But what I'm thinking is, what if they have like a hidden agenda for the artifact? Think about it, because if it's a teleporter, if you control the teleporter, that's a huge deal. If someone controls one thing, they control.
They controls the spice, controls the universe.
It'd be like a gold mine. Like, they could charge essentially, because they discovered that they activated it. They could take the credit off you. I don't know. It could end up being.
You're literally getting into, for those of you who don't know, that's a Dune reference, by the way. But you're genuinely getting into Dune territory with the Spacers Guild. Like, that's what they control the travel. So, and not saying I'm some Dune expert, like I know what I know from the board game, which is great, Dune Imperium, and also the one film. I've never read the books, but mostly the board game. Actually, the board game taught me more than the film. But
The film's just confusing.
I did not like that movie. But anyway, I see what you're saying with them being the villain. I can see it, them being the villain in the same way, and to bring back Divinity Original Sin 2, the same way that the Magisters are the villains in that game. In that, for those of you who haven't played that game, there are evil people within it, but the Magisters inherently, like the individuals are not inherently evil. Like there's a lot of ones that you meet in that game that are like, holy crap, what are we doing? Because they just have no idea, because it's coming from the top down. They just don't know. But they're painted out to be the bad guys. So I could see it in a similar sense. Like there's evil people there's people with bad intentions within Constellation, but I don't see them as the main antagonist. And of course, this is just because you're challenging my own theories that I've had for months about the game. So that's not to say that, but it would take a strong argument to convince me.
Here's what's going to happen. Vasco is going to be Hell 9000.
I'd be fine with that.
Oh, that'd be awesome, actually.
I'd be okay with that.
Do you think
Vasco betrays us.
Right,
And he
I was
betrays
gonna
Constellation. He steals our ship and he leaves us for dead.
Say, well, I was gonna say because
And then you're in Fallout New Vegas.
yeah, like if Vasco is gifted to us, who gifts us Vasco? Is it Constellation?
It seems like you know him beforehand, and the reason I say that is because you walk into Constellation headquarters. If the trailer follows any kind of chronological linear viewing, which is what would make the most sense to me. That's how I understand. That's how my brain logics things. Then you have Vasco. You meet Constellation after you've found the artifact. And then you get roped into it. And that's your real first introduction to Constellation proper.
Okay.
Which would imply that you know Vasco beforehand.
Okay.
Perhaps he assists in my theory was that with that is he actually is, because he's like, we know what his type of unit does. He's like a support robot, right? Like in the universe of Starfield, if there's other robots like him, it's to just help out with menial labor and stuff. He might help you in the mines, and he might be there when you make said discovery, which is why he tags along with you.
Right.
We actually know what company manufactured Vasco and what model he is, so we know he's not a unique robot in any sense.
No, he's unique to you.
Technically, he is unique because
he has modifications.
Yes,
specifically
for Constellation. So he's definitely a Constellation robot.
So that's what I was gonna say.
Does he get that after the fact?
If Vasco is sort of like, here's our special modified Vasco, here you go. They give him to you, and he's like monitoring you, watching you, recording every single thing that you do. So that way, when and if Constellation turns, then they're like, well, we know what you've been doing. We've seen it the whole time. And boom, twist, it's Vasco, your best friend. And you're like, dude.
Is that too obvious, though?
I know, but I didn't think about it.
We're talking about it here. Like,
I know there's the whole fear of AI, but have you seen AI? AI is stupid at the moment. I don't know why people are fearing it at the moment.
I just meant
ChatGPT is getting pretty wild.
I just meant Constellation's surveillance, not the AI part of it. Not that Vasco said, I am going to betray you. That's not what I mean. I mean, literally, they're using Vasco as, I don't know why I did this, that Constellation is using Vasco as surveillance to spy on you. That way, it's easily explained when they say, right. How do you know?
I think, okay, if Constellation itself is not the bad guy, it's going to be someone like Sarah. It's going to be one of the higher ups that would betray you.
Yeah, so it would be an individual.
Like a double. If you've ever watched League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
yes,
there's quite a bit of which they've based the whole aesthetic of Constellation off. In that, there's a lot of betrayal.
Yeah, misfits, rogue misfits, teaming up. Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if one of them is the true villain. I don't think someone like Elon Musk is going to turn up in the game, because there's a lot of controversy around him. He's very, well, best not get into it here. But
He's watching.
I'm more of the opinion that after Vasco steals your ship, you'll wake up in a cart coming down a mountain. But Fallout New Vegas works too.
Yeah.
I think we'll get. I think if there's a twist like that, we'll get stranded, lose our ship, and then we wake up when we have
He's
to go
carrying us
to.
like this. He's like,
We have to go to like we have to go to a village and like take I guess like a taxi to a spaceport, and then you get a
My
temporary
brain
ship.
is not following what's happening anymore.
Yeah.
I do
No,
hope there's a
I get-
situation where you lose your ship or something, and you have this moment of, oh crap, I'm on this planet that I'm not familiar with, and I don't have a way to leave. And you have to like sort of sort it out yourself. You can have quest markers and stuff, but like I want
Yes.
that like moment of panic to happen at least once.
You fell
you would
asleep
have to, yeah.
with your face on the W key, and you've walked halfway around the planet. And when you wake up, you've got to walk the other half.
I mean, they sort of did
Your
that
athletics
before,
is
haven't
next.
they? They've done that with Genua, the Sanguine quest in Skyrim, where you have the drinking contest. You wake up.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you've never been to Markarth before, you're like, where the hell? Which is how I experienced it. I'd not gone to that city. It's like, what the fudge? And you look at the map, you're like, what?
Right.
So like, you know, they could do something similar. And it was a cool, I don't know if you guys watched The Bad Batch on Disney Plus with Star Wars The Clone Wars, but they actually recently did an episode that was very similar where the Bad Batch gets stuck on a planet, their ship gets taken away. And it's a fun concept. It is a fun concept.
I feel like they could start with that, right? Like that's how the game starts, like the tutorial, like the prologue, and then you lose your ship, but then it gets completely destroyed, and that's when you gain the ability to build a little ship, and then progressively it gets, throughout the game.
Uh-oh.
No? You don't think-
Marco's shaking his head.
Yeah. We know you start as a miner, right? So you're not like
Oh,
I
that's
think that's
right. You know what?
I think that's
You
it.
know,
Like I don't think there's any complex like the ship crash landed and now you're a prisoner on the like I don't think I
Oh,
think
no,
it's
no,
just
no.
gonna be like you're a miner.
I think
Right.
this is how I think it's gonna go based off the gameplay last year. You're a miner. You don't have your own ship. When the mine stuff's done and Barrett comes, which kind of strange how Barrett knows that it's there when you just kind of discover it. I don't know. Maybe you send out a signal to call him. It's just like a cutscene, and then ship
I
lands.
assume Argus does.
And then possibly you hitch a ride on Barrett's ship, and then Constellation give you your ship, and then they give you Vasco, and they're like, use Vasco. He'll guide you, and then you go to Crete, where you do your first mission with the pirates.
Okay.
I like that.
like
Yeah,
that
then it
better.
makes
I like
sense
that
why
better
you're
than
getting
what I said.
Vasco. And it that's actually stronger than what I had said before, where like Vasco's just a mining robot too or something. So yeah, nice.
So I'd say you won't get your ship until you go to New Atlantis with to meet Constellation.
Mhm.
Barrett gives you that watch so you can access, and Vasco walks you to the HQ.
He might be waiting for you at New Atlantis. You might not
Yeah.
meet him until you land there, and then he's like, "Hi, I'm gonna take you there." And you go, "Okay," or "No, I want to explore."
The gameplay from last year, I thought it could have just been edited this way, but it sort of implied to me that he was on that ship that landed after you killed the Crimson Fleet pirates, and he walked down the ramp and was like, "So you found the artifact?" But I think it was just edited to make it seem that way when it was
Yeah.
actually a conversation that happened in New Atlantis.
You saw the
I'm-
visions.
I'm
Yeah,
not sure how I feel about the dialogue system. Like, no, I need to clarify what I mean. God, how do I explain this? It's like Oblivion. It zooms in on the face.
Oh, I knew
Oh,
you
I
were gonna
love
say
that.
that.
I love
Nope,
that.
I agree with you.
no,
It's
but
Classic Bethesda. I love
yeah,
it.
Right.
that is not how you have a conversation. Like, I prefer like Skyrim, where you can like move around,
I
or
like
Fallout
Skyrim's.
4, where you can like move around
the
in
option.
third person and stuff. Yeah.
Lex, I'm not
I
kidding
liked-
you.
I liked
that is
seeing-
my only complaint. I wish we had the option to have either the over the shoulder or like if you could just press a button in the middle of dialogue or something.
The problem with Fallout 4 is it ends up forcing you into third person. I wish that was a toggle. But
Right.
other than that, I think it's the Fallout 4 first person is almost like Skyrim perfect. It's just the automatic switch to third person can be immersion breaking. Especially when you've got Nate's voice coming out or Nora's voice, and it's
And
like,
it literally
I
comes
totally
from-
sound like this.
Right, like it comes from behind and it like and it like sucks right to the player's face. I know what you mean. DeMarco.
I don't know if we can still move around the camera, but yeah,
That's true.
I don't know. It just feels like you're going. One sec. Let me,
Or even if it's real time still, it might cause
it's like this. You wouldn't have a conversation like this. Hello.
Nailed it. You nailed it. Exactly. You nailed it. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
This is how we
Hello,
always talk to
traveler.
people.
Exactly. Never break eye contact.
Can you imagine if you spoke
You were
like
the one from my dreams.
you meet your friend in real life,
Right.
and that's
This is
exactly
the
what
day.
happens?
Don't give me shit.
That would be hilarious in real life if you just like walked up to each other's faces and like, hello.
Stop right there, criminal scholar. Oh my god. Sorry.
I think the thing that makes Oblivion awkward is the speed at which it zooms in. Like it
That's what I'm
zooms
saying.
right in.
It's like
It's slower in
exactly,
Starfield.
yeah.
It's so funny.
fast. Yeah.
I have a hunch Starfield will have toned that down a bit.
I think so.
Part of me thinks even too it'll do like a fade out, fade in to the dialogue, which I wouldn't like because that really takes you out of it a lot more than even the Oblivions. I hope that's not the case, but I prefer the Skyrim one as well. I like being able to see that the water's moving in the background, that he's still working on the forge, which, mind you, they might be able to do because they kind of did some of those things in Fallout 76 actually, where like you were still locked in dialogue, but the characters were still interacting with things around them.
Yes.
Yeah,
So maybe they do something similar, but I don't want them just like standing here like every conversation where they're just, you know, and mind you, even though the facial performances are leagues above what we've gotten in the past, like it's so much better. I still like that free movement part of it. So
Yeah,
it is what it
seems
is.
like-
Though I'm gonna love the gamer card. That's like the biggest nitpick.
And that's the
yeah,
thing,
I
it is
really
just a
wanna-
nitpick. Yeah.
Find something to not like. You're really digging.
The lip sync technology's definitely gotten better because the lip sync technology is. It's. I don't know if any of you have ever used Creation Kit.
Yep.
I've got a few hundred
Normal
hours
days.
in it.
That was it.
The lip sync technology is based on the audio file, so it will sync based on the audio file itself.
Is that AI?
So you don't have to do the work yourself.
Or is
It
just
kind
sort
of
like,
guesses.
So it's sort of like not facial recognition like Star Citizen has. I've seen that. I don't play that game. That's not a game. Star Citizen's not a game, people. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. But no, like whenever you can turn on like your character mouth movement in certain games. So whenever you're speaking in game chat, your character will have his mouth moving. Is that sort of what it is?
No, it's literally you put the audio file in, you tell it what the audio file is, and then you generate a lip file, which is it's a file specifically for the lip movements, and it's based off that audio track that you've put into the
That's so
mod
cool.
files.
I did
Yeah.
not know that. I did not know that because I'm like,
But
because when they
it's
make
never great because it will interpret white noise as well. So
Right. Like,
you've got to be.
it's like the mouth is hanging open. Yeah.
At least that's how I remember it.
I'd like to, if it's all right with you, I'd like to move on to this trailer. The video was kind of divided into two parts. The second part was Todd talking, and we saw off-screen gameplay, which we'll also talk about. We have a lot to get to still.
I'm gonna say we spent how long talking about literally
man.
not what was shown off recently.
It's my fault. I'm
It's-
sorry.
it's-
I'm so sorry. I'm so
It's
sorry.
fine. It's a great time.
Yeah.
It's a
thought-
great time. Yeah,
It's
'cause-
exciting to talk about Starfield in this way
Yeah.
again. Like I haven't had the
Thank you.
energy as a content creator myself, like the energy to talk about Starfield as much. And it's nice to finally have like a sharp reinvigoration of that.
I'm so with
Reignited
you.
the fire.
Yeah, because you're like in like an echo chamber with yourself. You're making content, and people are just commenting down below and saying, "Cool, I agree," or "I wonder if this," or "I wonder if that." But like, yeah, actually getting to interact with people with the excitement it's really intoxicating, and it's I'm with you, man. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
And having the new information to feed off of is
finally new things. Yeah. Go ahead, Mitch.
But,
I'm sorry.
The first half of this video was basically a trailer in itself, almost exactly a minute long, and I think that there was a time when the first minute of this new video was going to be the Starfield Super Bowl commercial that was rumored so heavily. And it was only after they pushed it back out of the first half of 2023 that they said, no, we're not going to do this. It's going to be part of another trailer. And then they tacked on this Todd Howard speech.
No, there never was a Super Bowl.
Their heads no on this. Like I see Lexi like,
no.
I'm like,
It's kind of a tinfoil hat thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They could have had it for something, you know.
You know how much that would have cost though for like and they weren't going
Millions.
to. Yeah, and listen, if they I like my job is in I work at a marketing agency, so like I see some of this stuff. The cost and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this, but like the cost would have been monumental, especially when you consider at the time that they had not even announced the date for their event, like literally the Starfield dedicated event. A Super Bowl just did not seem at all logical to me,
like,
to spend that amount of money to
you've
got
got
what
you've got like it's all sports fans, and they just see. Did anyone see that fake Super Bowl commercial from last year? And it was literally a mashup of Starfield trailers and then a mill at the end. And the mill's just talking. And it's like the Super Bowl ad, and it's like 3 minutes, and it's 1 minute, it's just a mill.
I actually have a counterpoint to that, which is this stuff is planned very, very far in advance. So I would imagine this commercial was already made. Is it possible there could have been a timeline where the showcase date is already announced, or maybe there wasn't even going to be a showcase because the release date was going to be soon after this commercial?
In the grand scheme of the multiverse, Starfield released in November.
In the grand scheme of the multiverse, Starfield was the only IP that Bethesda ever has made from the beginning of time.
Oh no, that means we'd be on like what, Starfield 15? I don't know.
Or alternatively, you could be in the universe where Bethesda only made Wayne Gretzky hockey games.
Yeah,
but Wolf, I'm curious your opinion on it, because you haven't said yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question? What was the overall? Sorry,
I think on the Super Bowl commercial thing.
Oh yeah. What I was saying is that they have assets that they hadn't used prior to the release, or just had plans, and they didn't want to skew their plans in any other direction. They wanted to still move forward and have things up their sleeve and in their back pockets, like a trailer, like a launch promo or what have you, like saying, here we have a trailer here that we could throw Game Pass on the end of it or whatever, and coming soon or whatever, that they could throw out at any moment. So that could be what that 1 minute trailer that you're talking about could have been, because that is a really good idea. It very well could have been the release, reminder trailers, just another marketing trailer. Like, remember Starfield, like we get the release date for November, right? So now we're in what was it, June when we had the showcase? So June, July, August, maybe in August, then they release that trailer that's like, remember, it's coming, something like that. So that's really all that I had to say about it, because I just don't think it came out of nowhere, because it did feel very tacked on, and it kind of looked like it would, because we got the two. It's like, now put in all your questions, everyone. We'll be listening and doing Constellation questions, and then nothing. Two of them. We got the first one with everyone talking, and then the quest.
It did feel like they were building up to more.
Right, and then they're like, let's just give this. Now, I don't think that was. I don't think that video with Todd talking is as recent as it seems, but I feel like the date. As far as what they had planned is what I mean. Not Todd actually being there, but then they're like, you know what? We're so close now. We've wasted so much time. Let's just tell them about the showcase and just knock it out, 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing. So that's how.
To answer your question, the TV spot would have cost about $12 million.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I mean, listen, Starfield is gonna make that back. Like, I'm fully confident in the financial success of this game.
Yeah.
But no, I don't.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
That's
they
fair.
need,
I mean,
6 weeks production time for pre-orders of collector's editions and all that. So they got it. They got it 6 weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy it twice. Well, actually, I've got to buy it 3 times because I got to buy the PC Collector's Edition,
Oh.
a Steam copy, and then I can do a giveaway, and then got to buy an Xbox copy because I don't use Game Pass because I'm a pleb.
Okay. That's okay.
The actual reason is I don't play any other game on Game Pass. I didn't use it,
That's fair.
so it doesn't benefit me. I'd rather just buy the game and then the physical Xbox copy, of course. So
So many games on
there's
Game
that.
Pass. There's not one that you play.
No.
Not a single one. Like hundreds
No,
of
'cause
games
I-
available on Xbox Game Pass
So
across
many.
Xbox PC
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
cloud.
and on Xbox PC. Yeah. Death Stranding. Death Stranding's on Game Pass. PC.
So many games with hundreds of available titles at the tip of your finger.
Here's some.
Yeah, but I could just boot up Oblivion 4K 60 frames. I've got that digitally. All my games are digital. But I've got all of the Bethesda games in release order. So you got Morrowind Game of the Year. Then you got Oblivion Game of the Year. Then you got Skyrim. Then you've got Legendary Edition. Then it's Fallout
All
4.
5 Skyrim.
Then it's Special Edition. Then it's
Alexa
Then it's
edition.
yeah.
The Fridge Edition. Yeah, I have 4 different versions of Morrowind. I have the original, the Platinum Hits, the Game of the Year Edition, and then the PC Game of the Year Edition.
You
That's
got a
a
while to catch up to Camelworks though. You know, he has like all the different.
Yeah, he
countries
managed to
worth.
get a mint copy of Battlespire and Arena
that
and
man,
Daggerfall.
You want to talk about collections? Just look at Camelworks. That guy has everything.
He has certainly put his
He sh-
YouTube money to worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
That's
He
like
showed it
the
to me on
biggest.
stream.
That's
we were doing like a call like this, and it was only the one time I spoke to him, but he was like, "Look at this," and I was like, "Jesus Christ! Like it's not even available. Like you can't
Yeah.
buy it." And he's like, "Yeah, but I did."
And shout out to him because there are so many like Deathclaw Island, by the way, that was from them, and they put it in Fallout. Which Fallout game did they put that in?
76.
76. That's what I thought. Yeah, they put Deathclaw Island. And it was just like a little, spot of land, but that was from him, by the way. Yeah.
I will say when you're a big YouTuber, it's a lot easier for people to, because he was talking about it on Twitter, like, can you help me find these things?
Yeah.
I remember
I
that.
remember.
So when you got a big audience, there's people that are willing to help out if they like your content,
Yeah.
and that's beneficial. Maybe when we're all big YouTubers, we'll have the contacts to find all these mint old games that we really want. Well, that's a joke, but
No, you never
So
know.
Starfield's
You
a
never say
game.
that. You never know.
Starfield's a game.
Starfield's a game.
So,
Yep.
yeah, in the video, it opens up. Very first clip is a capital ship. So straight off the bat, those were confirmed. They were speculated on a lot. We will have these huge ships that, whether or not we can fully explore them remains to be seen, but they're in the game in some capacity. All right.
Oh, was that okay? No.
Was that
I don't know.
ship-
I mean, I'm not sure what there is to comment on just
Other than
knowing
that,
capital
that
ships
ship
exist.
was sleek as shoot.
It was.
And
Yeah.
it didn't look like. Thank you. Ching. It didn't look like the yeah. It didn't look like the what's the term that they use? Not cyberpunk. Space punk. NASA punk. That's what it was.
NASA Punk.
It didn't look
Yeah.
like it didn't have that aesthetic. That was the first thing that I've seen that looked really that sleek. They're really futuristic. That was really cool. Yeah, that ship.
Especially compared to the big
I'm-
freighters that we've seen already, like the just.
I
with the
might be
gigantic
able to
shipping
explain it.
containers on them.
Right, exactly. Big shipping containers,
Yeah.
lots of.
We've seen
lots of-
big ships like that, but not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a. I don't know if it'd be a warship. It's aerodynamic. it's very sleek, and it looks like, because remember, the faster you go, well, you wouldn't have air resistance, but you'd probably go faster. Probably. I don't know. We don't really spend a lot of time in space. We're usually in a spaceship. Yeah.
Those things could fly in atmosphere, probably. I imagine. I'm sure they're capable.
Space is dangerous.
My big thing when I saw it was, I wonder. I know this is not exactly probably what that was, because the ships that we have seen historically are all the bulkier NASA punk. But what it raised the question for me is, I was curious if you remember in Fallout 4 when you build your settlements and you set the caravan across to go, you could see the caravan traveling between your settlements. So it made me specifically think about, like, how cool would it be to have your own freighters that do that instead, that you can find. Or maybe it's not your freighter, maybe because they want you to have that role play, right, where you could be the space pirate and you see other people's freighters going between their own colonies that you could go off and raid and pirate and take all of the stuff that they have on board. Or the ship itself, of course, as we've seen, you could kind of board ships. So that's what I saw out of it personally, was kind of setting up those settlement type systems and expanding on those a little bit more, which would be cool to see. But as far as the actual flight part of it, it was interesting. They probably can fly in the atmosphere, as you said, Mitch. So, but then again, why wouldn't other ships be built in a similar way? Because all of these other ships are cutting through the atmosphere too. The player ships that we've seen customized, the big freighters have to do it. So why wouldn't others be done similarly?
If we can think about it from a gaming perspective, those smaller NASA punk ships are designed modularly, and I think when you get to those big capital ships, it's either they're not designed modularly, or it's harder to see the modules because they're so big, and it just looks more sleek because they're not as boxy.
You could think about the big space structures too, though, right? Why wouldn't those be built in? I mean, maybe if you want to talk about like aerodynamics as it pertains to getting into the atmosphere, that's a different discussion. But even these space stations, right? In the original footage, you see the ship pulling up and you see all the cargo containers on it. I don't know the exact shot, but the station's off to the right-ish. I'll screen right, I remember. But even that had the similar aesthetic, though, with the big, bulky, blocky designs, not like what this capital ship would be. So if you're talking about giant structures, generally speaking, those followed a similar design.
I think... You ever seen how ships are built in Star Trek and Star Wars? Like the mega ships. They're built in space. I think those kinds of ships will be built in space and maintained in space. And the ones you see on the surface are either being repaired or they're specifically docked for a specific purpose.
I might have an answer here. Sorry, Lexi.
No, I was just gonna... I think it's easier to build a ship like that in space. Because then you don't have to worry about the atmosphere. And as for it entering the atmosphere, I don't think it will. I think it will enter low Earth. I think it will enter a low orbit, but then it's got to maintain speed, or it's going to drop out the sky, unless it has powerful, like bottom thrust, maintaining the height.
I forgot how big it was. I'm looking at it now. I forgot that it was actually this large. But what if we're just all overthinking it and it's realistically just like a space resort? Like it's just a tourist ship that people... Space yacht. Literally, yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's why it looks the way it does.
Sort of along that line of thinking. Think about the factions we've seen. As far as like boxy versus sleek, we got the Crimson Fleet and the Freestar Collective, who are kind of like ragtag, don't have much money, or kind of loosely collected, so their ships aren't going to be as like nice and high budget. United Colonies has the money, they've got the big city, they've got the territory. They're probably the ones that would have the big sleek ships. So I think this is a United Colonies like capital ship, frigate. Yep.
It's a cruise ship.
Like there was one that was. There's actually one that was named in that letter from Emil Pagliarulo. We know the fleet admiral And there is a ship that's named that belongs to the UC Space Navy, Space Force, whatever you call them. That could be that ship.
Space Rangers.
SpaceX.
Oh wait,
Space Ranger. That's Freestar Collective, I think. It's Rangers.
Space Ranger. That's Toy Story, isn't it? That's
Space
Buzz...
Rangers. That is Toy Story. That's Buzz
Yeah.
Lightyear's part of the Space Rangers. Yeah.
I still haven't seen that movie. I heard it's good.
The,
actually is
the
not-
solo Buzz Lightyear film. That's really good. Because it goes into real science. Like kids aren't going to understand it, but you watch that. Like if you're, I'm going to recommend that later. Like, you watch Buzz Lightyear. Like yeah.
I like the sci-fi parts of it. Like
Like-
when it was doing the actual sci-fi stuff, I was digging it.
Because they
Yeah,
delve
there's
into the theoretical. If you slingshot around the sun, and you achieve light speed, you'll go into the future, because of the way it works, with the gravity. It's really confusing. No kid's gonna understand it, but what they need
Do
to
you
know
think-
is Buzz goes in the future.
Do you think perhaps this is a vessel that's meant for long-term travel? Like, for example, the arcs in Mass Effect Andromeda that specifically had the cryo chambers to freeze passengers. So if you're traveling in a ship this size, in order to accelerate it, even in space, from like, whatever speed to light speed or to near light speed, takes a lot of energy. And generally speaking, if you want to move a car from 0 to, or like from 5 to 7 miles an hour versus 160 to 163 miles an hour, that takes more energy. The latter does. So a ship this size, in order to move that fast, would not be very efficient. But if it's meant to just carry a lot of people from destination to destination, the same way, again, the arcs in Mass Effect Andromeda, perhaps. Because something like this, again, we've seen the smaller vessels that have all the cargo on them. It's not a capital ship, but I don't see anything that would imply that this is necessarily like a warship. Like, there's no distinct weapons really on it. I mean, maybe at the front, that's a turret.
We have an example. There's a ship graveyard, and those ships look completely different from the back. Those are warships from the Colony War, definitely, but what we see here is more like a cruise or a yacht. Something
That's
more
why I'm
luxurious.
thinking it's like a passenger transport, like, to travel across long distances.
The Wally ship.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a space arc, like Andromeda, just like a
the
like a mini
graviton.
Citadel, maybe like that.
Because if
like
you
that
think
ship is like a big apartment complex, is what I was gonna say.
if you think about like what they discover, and this is later on, maybe I'm going too far ahead as far as the trailer analysis part of this goes, but if you look later on, you see that that device opens up this wormhole-esque thing. It's pulling things in, right? So perhaps we don't yet have the actual key to traveling these great distances, and the way that we do it is with a ship like that. But in order to like get truly across the universe, right, you would need either that technology that's seemingly alien to us, or a giant vessel like this that would be able to do it for that long of a distance.
I've just had a brain blast reference Jimmy Neutron. Just now, Last E3, they demonstrated how the Graviton Flight Loop Array works, where you choose a destination and it will choose a near star, and it will like use that star system as like a pit stop, I guess. What if it's exactly like I was talking about earlier with the slingshot? Graviton Loop Array, you're using gravitons to not travel at the speed of light, but you are using gravity to bend space, and you're using that sun as a slingshot to do that. So each star that's a pit stop is you're using its gravity, its extreme gravity, to slingshot you to the next system, and then continue until you reach your destination. And also for the that would take a lot of power, right? I think, well, they're going with fusion and helium-3. Fusion reactors, in theory, produce more than they eat up. And on that yacht ship, that would have a massive fusion reactor, if not several. I think that thing would. I don't really want to think how much power that's like generating on a basis. I think that could easily do the graviton thing at its size.
That's another excuse me. That's another interesting point of like the long haul travel capabilities of these ships is like their self-sustenance, and they'd probably need like a reactor of some kind, which could be potentially a good way to destroy them. Imagine a scenario where you have to sneak onto a different faction ship and then plant explosives on the fusion reactor.
God, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
fusion
yes.
reactors are dangerous. Like Todd Howard said, it's still dangerous. Imagine, let's say, the graviton field loop array. It's not perfect. Like anything isn't. It malfunctions. And say you read a story and it's one of the first models that malfunctioned, and someone vanished because something went wrong. So they slingshocked around the sun, and instead they went faster than the ship could handle, and it exploded upon reaching a certain speed. So like there have been accidents where either the graviton loop array has failed and the ship isn't properly protected at the speeds it's going, and it just blows up because the ship can't handle that amount of gravity being like kind of that was a poor demonstration.
Yeah, it's very,
I hate
very
when gravity
lightly.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah, it's you know, or say the fusion reactor goes off, because it's the fusion reactor still like a nuclear reactor. Fusion reactor goes off, that's going to explode. And a fusion reactor can be a chain reaction. Something only has to fly into it, or only has to be slightly damaged. You know,
There you have it,
Vasco's
science.
having a radiation shower in the reactor room.
So we took a 3-second clip that I thought would generate no discussion, and I think we got like 20-25 minutes out of it. So
Oh, wait.
we're 3 seconds into this video, so we're trucking right
man.
through.
Oh.
Prepare for a long episode, everyone.
Oh,
Well, I
God.
was gonna say prepare for a long night of editing. No, that's me. I'm talking to myself.
You can you can redo it and I'll leave. I feel like I've brought on
Oh my God, no.
60% of the tangent.
Nope.
No,
You
we
and
always
I
edit
are,
with a very heavy hand.
You and I, DeMarco, are on the same page, so we can't leave them alone because I am the king of tangents, and oh my God, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. That's why I'm just sitting
It's
over here like,
great,
yeah. Mitch?
The next clip, we see the Star Station from 2018 again. That the thing with the very first structure we saw in any Starfield material whatsoever, the Star Station, we now know it's called, thanks to the narrator, it's called LO868, and there's a little bit of ambiguity about the name because the teaser trailer wasn't high enough resolution that you could see the name on the side. Some people thought it was LO86B, O6B, there are a bunch of different theories.
It's
We
the
now know it
greeting.
is
When you dock, they go,
LO868.
hello. Sorry, Lex.
LO, oh,
Continue. Sorry, just.
Hello.
Yeah.
So yeah, not much to like discuss there, but I just thought it was an interesting thing to, now we know for sure. The speaker of the trailer, by the way, I think is the unnamed person who was dressed in the gold outfit with the pipes all over it in the gameplay. He has like gray hair, a mustache, it's a very interesting hairdo. But I think that's
A
who it is.
very interesting head. He's balding, but he's
I
not
brought-
giving up his hair.
I
Right,
brought
yeah.
this up.
I
You're
get it.
telling me that in the year that Starfield takes place, they couldn't cure male pattern baldness? Like, are you
Bull
kidding me?
crap.
And that man is sitting here over a priceless artifact. So don't tell me that they have it and he can't afford it. I've heard that.
Exactly.
I've brought this up before.
It's a
This is the
choice.
real topic of today's podcast, everybody. Male pattern baldness in Starfield and why it shouldn't exist.
He
Welcome
kind of
to
rocks
this
it,
episode
though.
of Baldfield.
Baldfield.
No, that's an interesting theory, Mitch. Thank you for sharing.
The only difference is that the voice in the trailer sounds a little bit higher pitched than this character's voice, but that could be the radio distortion. Anyway,
I have
one
a
of the
hunch it's not. I don't think it is him.
that's fair.
And the reason why, just because, and maybe Lexi or Wolf, you have a different opinion on it, but I would disagree simply because he doesn't seem as though at this point where you're going to this location that he would be involved in it, because he was some artifact dealer on Aquila, as far as we know. If you're going based on continuity of how that gameplay footage rolls out, why would he be narrating on something focused around he barely knows about that artifact that he has. He's just like, oh, I got it from this guy, he said it spoke to him. Like, you're interested in it, versus this narrator who is in depth explaining, like, the brother eye, and this gigantic structure, and he knows about these stations. I need cordless headphones. These stations that are doing all this space magic, as far as even Constellation knows, right? They don't but he has more of an in-depth knowledge than it seems as though that particular NPC would have.
I've got a simple solution. Quick save, shoot the guy in the head, take the artifact. You don't have to negotiate.
And you can't
This
cure his
is how you
baldness
do
because
it.
you can't afford it otherwise.
Just
You
take
pay
a
him.
scalp, and then you...
With a high enough
Well,
caliber, you
I
can
mean-
fix his baldness.
Well, you could fix his
That was-
entire
that was
head.
terrible.
We know who's joining.
Wow.
We know who's joining the
You know,
Crimson
everywhere,
Fleet.
right? Yeah. Me for sure. I have an obligation now, audience. You know what I mean.
Unless Bethesda make him essential, and then, we're not allowed to cure his baldness, I guess.
I hope not.
Screw essential NPCs. I hate that.
Yeah, me too. One of the things he says is that the eye is showing signs over another one of those big anomalies. This is extremely vague, but when he says that, we see a clip of that Constellation LO868 station from the inside, and we see the glass dome up above that you can see in the middle, in between all those, what I think are solar panels. So that thing is probably called the eye, and it's probably a sensor for these weird artifacts or structures.
We were all wrong. That was not Constellation HQ. We all thought the library concept was inside that ship. Nah, we
That's
were
right.
wrong. We were wrong.
I think
That was the New Atlantis HQ.
I think that glass dome might just be a motif of Constellation architecture.
Isn't it the center? Isn't it literally the center
Of that space station, yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and we saw a glass dome much like it before, but it was in the Constellation library. So we thought that was a library that we saw in 2018. I think it's
Okay.
actually this. And you just
And
have
the
two glass
library
domes.
is in New Atlantis,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where we
Yeah.
saw met the what's her name? Sarah.
It wasn't the same
was there.
room, but it was the same bookshelves. So
Okay.
it could just be like the next room.
Any DC fans? DC
Oh
DC
my God,
Comics?
dude. You have
No?
no idea.
Played
Yes.
played
Yes.
Injustice 2 by any chance?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
I just assume that I is literally Brother I.
Oh.
So basically, that's
I mean,
but it's
references-
exactly what you said, Mitch. Like, I agree 100% that it's scanning for these artifacts. So for those listeners who might not know, Brother I basically is built by Bruce Wayne. It's this surveillance tech to scan the entirety of Earth to try to spot, crimes and before they happen, basically, is the idea behind it. It's meant to monitor the other superheroes, but it's complete invasion of privacy, which is already happening in the real world. Be terrified.
And then
So, I
Superman
think that this
uses
is the
it
same
for his evil plan in that
There
game.
you go. It always gets turned against, and I think in the comics it just becomes like it revolts as it's hell,
As all AIs like
eventually
villainized.
do, yeah. But
See, this is why
I agree,
AI is
Mitch.
gonna
That's what I
turn-
think it is.
This is why AI is going to turn on us because we keep villainizing it. Just saying.
It knows. It's listening.
Yeah. Just saying. One day, AI will be walking among us, and they'll be treated like humans. One day. One day. That's an
boy.
ideal world. That's an
Yeah, that is
world.
ideal. Yeah, that is the.
Well, it's better than Terminator, where they all try and kill us.
Scary, man. Hopefully it's a long way off. The next clip is a structure, and this is actually the structure we see in the Journey Through Space artwork. And there was some speculation that that's a city, maybe the fourth city. I think this pretty much deconfirms that altogether, and this is definitely like some more of those mysterious ruins, inside of which is that structure with the rotating rings that we eventually see, as DeMarco alluded to earlier, do something and sends the floating player into a wormhole. It was really trippy. We'll learn more, but that in itself is a whole hour of discussion.
A whole hour.
They eject you into space, and you're tethered to the ship, so you get pulled along. You get pulled into the graviton rift.
We've seen that artifact many times at this point. Like it was the doodles on the ship from the early teaser, right? I think they're synonymous. They're the same thing. It's on the cover art or the box art that we kind of have so far, right? Or the art of Starfield video. And it's been shown with a ship that kind of launches from it. So my theory from the get-go about this personally has always been that this is a form of travel, that this is meant to project you and we see the player getting lifted up. We see that these kind of particle effects, whether they're stars or whatever, getting sucked into it as it creates a wormhole-like entity. The only other, and then it also kind of, and this is something that was pointed out for me from discussion with others, it also sort of implodes into a similar effect that we see in that initial teaser trailer with the same like orangish colors too, if you want to try to make that connection.
Yep.
Which seemingly that gets sucked away to somewhere else, again alluding to travel of some kind. So either my running theory has been that it's some kind of a map, like Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, they need to get the map to find him, or it is more like even a Horcrux from Harry Potter, if you wanted to allude it to that, where it can take you, or like, for example, something as mysterious as, let's say, if you want to go to Mass Effect, like the Omega 4 relay, like it just takes you to a very particular nation.
Sorry, Mass Effect.
So those have been all my same helmet.
I know, I see it. I can't stop looking at it. It is just God.
I think the planet with the artifact lies just outside the settled systems where they haven't charted, and to actually get to it, you need to chart it. So you have to find all the pieces, find the location, and then you have to find where the system is. Because think about it, you're using a graviton loop array, you don't know where you're going. How are you supposed to slingshot where you don't know where to go?
Again, the relays. That's a really
theory.
good idea. Oh, the theory.
And probably not right. I should preface everything I say with I've been wrong about everything involving this game. Like legitimately almost everything I've been wrong about. Worst Starfield YouTuber. But what if this takes place like after a Reaper type event, right? Reapers come in Mass Effect, extinct all life in the galaxy so new life can grow.
Yes.
We as humanity are that new thing coming in. But in Starfield universe, someone has escaped that cataclysmic event through whatever this device is that takes them somewhere uncharted. And we are now discovering that, which is in some form a gateway to get to where that, because Todd Howard has always explained, I think that the end game is finding alien life, like sentient alien life. I think that's the end game. I've always believed that because Todd Howard has mentioned it's about discovering, looking at the stars, the greatest mystery, period. I will die on this hill is there other life besides ours? That's it. I'm sorry. I will not accept any other answer. But so this device they go through somehow, and that's our key to getting to wherever they've gone to. Maybe it doesn't involve a cataclysmic event. Maybe they just literally left for whatever reason. Maybe they thought we were a threat. They were escaping humanity, right? They saw us growing. They saw us spreading, and they're like, I'm out of here. Bye.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the higher-ups at Bethesda, they're religious. Todd's Catholic, I think. He went to a Catholic school.
How do you know this?
Yeah, it's stuff I've heard over the years.
Who's there?
So I can't back it up, but I've heard Todd is Catholic. Catholic?
They have
he's
explicitly
Christian.
mentioned religion for what it's worth too, like
Yeah.
how religion plays a role in all of this.
I don't know if he goes to church every Sunday. I don't know, but apparently he did go to a religious school at some point.
Oh, okay.
That's about all I know. I'm not weird. I don't go personally looking into people's lives.
So
I ain't got time for that.
someone just tagged me and said, Red Wolf, is it just me or is a dude on the couch playing co-op? And he has like the head mind blown emoji. And he says, dude, it's clearly a co-op tease. The shadow that pops up when God Howard introduces the guy is another player.
That's single player RPG, man. They've said it's exclusively single player.
know.
Don't buy into that.
I
Yeah,
agree.
that's-
No, I agree. And
Rage.
that's what I meant to tell him. I mean, like, I'm so sorry.
What are they smoking, and
That's
where can
me.
I get some?
He said, dude, he said the shadow that pops up when God Howard introduces the guy is another player. What other?
That's bait.
I'll deal with this later. Anyway, I don't know if anyone. No, I know it's single player. I have no hopes for that. I don't really even necessarily want it. Not that I wouldn't accept it, but I'm sorry. Tangent over. Done. That's it. Stop.
Oh,
To
well,
the point of to the point of
Mitch button.
Yeah.
culminate first contact of aliens. I've said it so many times on the show. My desperate hope is that the credits roll right after we see the aliens for the very first time. Like you see them, boom, screen goes
No,
black, credits roll.
no.
Please.
Credits.
That could be like. Have you guys played Prey, the new Prey reboot?
I
Not long
haven't
enough.
beat it.
I know the ending.
That's very much like Prey, the way it cuts away like that.
Cool.
You see, if they did an ending like that, when Fallout 3 launched and they had the cliffhanger just ends, the fans outraged so bad that the third piece of DLC content literally fixed it so you could continue after you beat the game. There was a whole
Right.
epilogue to the
Yeah.
you
for
don't die.
But
You know, they tried.
Oh, that's
That was
right. I totally
that was faithful to the original Fallout, but BGS fans didn't like that. So
Because you were like the
Obviously.
savior of the land because you brought purified.
yeah, and you couldn't continue. You got put back to an instant point.
Right. I
Feels like
forgot
feels like a
completely
Zelda
about
game.
that. That's so weird. That's so weird. Okay.
So
So-
I can't see. They'll never do this, but I love the way Final Fantasy 14 does does content. So you have like let's say the main game, and then it won't for a single player game, it won't be updates, but then you get a post scenario of the main quest, and that wraps everything up, and you kind of it's like an epilogue to the main story, so it doesn't just end and it's a cliffhanger. It kind of what's the repercussions of all this, and then it slowly builds off to the end to a satisfying ending.
would you all be upset if, just slightly a side discussion, if like we get to this big mystery, other life in the galaxy, and the answer is straight up no?
Like nothing.
Or
is-
like
it's like you
there
overthought it.
There is, but it's all gone. Like so, you go to meet this other life, but they're all like dead. Like,
Okay,
they're not
so-
dead. Like, would you not?
Obviously-
No.
There was at some point, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there was,
Okay.
but you
Right.
you finally discover it, and it's like, no, they're all dead.
That's the
I disagree.
Prometheans,
Like,
and that's the Prometheans in Mass Effect. That's how I felt. I was satisfied with that, and then, no spoilers. But
Well, the difference here is that like you spend theoretically the game like trying to find this other, like in Mass Effect they're just there, like they happen, they're gone, and
Right.
that's like the backdrop. But in this you're actively
Protheans. Oh my
trying-
god, I'm a fake Mass Effect. Protheans. You knew what I meant. God.
Yeah, in this you're actively trying to find them and
Yeah.
discover, like, because maybe they left behind this technology. That's been my theory too, is that some alien race made all these artifacts or whatever. That's why we don't understand them fully. But now we're piecing together this alien technology. You go through their wormhole, whatever, playing off of my theory before, and then it's like, nope, they're all dead.
They're all dead.
That does leave a poor taste.
The whole game you've been trying to find them, and then they're just gone.
Yeah.
What if
Wait,
there's
did-
one that's like, I've been waiting for you to get in. He's like
I-
this little alien wheelchair.
Yagrum Bagarn.
I would actually love that ending. It would be so disappointing that I would
Yeah.
hate it so much that I love it.
You're like,
I can't see Todd doing it because Todd loves his mysteries. That
You brought
the
this up before, yeah.
inconclusive nature would be like the Dwemer mystery, but for Starfield.
Right.
Todd
So if
loves
you
his
end it-
mysteries.
Yeah. So if you end it, it's like, what's there left to be?
So maybe we don't find out, but
They're more like the other
they-
continents in Elder Scrolls.
they're going realism, and the building blocks for life are common. But people are like, oh, I want my big titty aliens.
yeah.
But aliens probably aren't going to look like us at all. They're not going to walk on 2 feet.
They're gonna look like
they might not
squids.
even walk on feet.
Yeah.
And maybe these aliens actually came from Earth.
So
But
it's a prequel to Prey 2018.
It's a prequel to Arrival, or
So
sequel to Arrival.
Starfield Prey, same universe.
I think they're going to talk
Starfield,
about parallel
Prey, Fallout.
universes. I think that's how they're going to do a Fallout reference. Is they discover a parallel universe.
Yes, dude. See, that's the
But-
thing. Sorry. Nope.
Here's how they reference Elder Scrolls. And
On topic, Mitch.
okay, I'll be quick with this. I think an Elder Scrolls theory, this would be perfect. So anyone from Bethesda who's a developer wants to hear this and pitch it, great. Basically, God, my brain just goes.
Well, it's also
Absolute.
2 a.m. I think for you. So.
Oh, I'm fully awake for this.
Okay. All right.
I'm fully.
I'm totally.
I think it's gonna be like a scientist dreaming, and he's having these weird dreams, and he's like, I keep dreaming of this fantasy land of all these elves and magic and science and all this shit, because Elder Scrolls is a dream.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So if this guy's having a dream, he's just dreamt the whole godhead.
This is not.
I wanted to hear
that
one. Button wouldn't have worked. I wanted to hear it. Okay, so then let's see. In the rest of the video, we're still in the first part. Did I cut someone off?
No. Please,
Oh.
God, continue, because I won't
Mitch!
stop. Just go.
I'm hitting the button.
For the love of
All
God.
right, so the first part of the video wraps up by revealing the release date, and then we get into the second part of the video, which is Todd talking. Todd just kind of talks generally about like thanking us for supporting him, and not us specifically, but the community. And he reveals the date of the release, the show, the Direct, Starfield Direct. They took the name straight from Nintendo, but in the background, I think his name is Tim Lamb, is playing the game, and there's a bunch of raw gameplay, which we haven't seen much of.
Yep.
Yeah, and the most notable thing I thought was seeing the in-game menu. Like when you're in the middle of a playthrough, like pressing B and opening the inventory in Skyrim, your Pip-Boy interface in Fallout. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen crafting stations, we've seen character creation. We haven't seen that menu that we're going to spend so much time with, and we finally got to look at it. And it was Tim Lamb scrolling through armor. So we see a shock troop space helmet, and it has 3 types of damage protection. This is some new mechanical information. It has physical, energy, and EM, which we think is electromagnetic, thank you DeMarco, protection. And then, again, thank you DeMarco, because I was totally misunderstanding this, there are 4 types of resistance, which are thermal, corrosive, airborne, and radiation. It's kind of a theory, but makes the most sense. Yeah, what do we think about this?
Because those are probably the different damage. Well, then.
So what are physical, energy, and EM then?
Yeah, then you have. Wait, never mind. I'm switching things up in my brain.
I think it's
In
like
my thought cage.
It's like atmospheric damage and then actual weapon elemental type.
Oh my God,
damage.
you're right. The top 3 are combat. The bottom 4 are environmental. Yeah. You got it. You're spot
Makes
on.
sense, yeah. That's what I was trying to say for what it's worth. As far as going,
That's what I was actually gonna give it to DeMarco, and he was gonna take it away, but
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm
So
loving it.
what I found really interesting too, which I don't know if you guys picked up on, was the fact that the weight I think is going to be much more crucial than just inventory management, because we've seen in the gameplay demo how weight and gravity plays a role. So if you're wearing heavier equipment, how is that going to play? And you're a lot more floaty on the moon of Crete, So if you're wearing gear that has a lot more weight to it, that's gonna be counteracted by the gravity. Versus if you're wearing like a lot of light armor and you do a jump and you go 600 feet in the air and you float for 5 minutes, and you're getting
You're like, no.
hang time like crazy.
Yeah.
And you can't land back like someone on Willy Wonka's factory. You're just floating away.
Exactly.
Versus, versus if you're wearing all this really heavy gear, it might be low gravity, but you go to jump and you're just like, So that I think is a really cool factor. Because in every other game, it's always just been like, oh, I'm over encumbered, I can't move. But here it actually has some gameplay effects. And then you could consider, because we've seen in the gameplay footage there was some jetpack, which we saw previously, but jetpack. So like, how does that weight play into your jetpack and the fuel that uses, which I think is also pretty awesome. I don't think outside of your sprinting, like I think it drained more stamina when you sprinted in heavy armor. But I wonder if it's going to play other mechanics as well, which I'm looking forward to that side of it personally.
The jetpack thing is interesting. My brain went more to fall damage because the carry weight could impact, if they want to go this far, terminal velocity and how much damage you get when you fall.
Right. You could jump and land like Family Guy when they're just like, boom! Like there's like zero resistant, like it's just like just straight to the ground. Yeah, because I thought about that too, like, because obviously there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be like a legendary jetpack somewhere in the game where it's just like infinite hover and you can just hover forever. I know like stuff like that's going to be in the game, so upgrading equipment is important. But I saw that when your stamina goes down, the oxygen level lowers to a maximum. I'll have to go back and look at it, but it's like those two things they use the same meter, but the O2 meter is part of the stamina. So whenever it's going down, the O2 also goes down, but to like a maximum. Like you have to wait for the oxygen to actually build up because it's tied to.
Yeah, that kind of ties into the realism, because as you sprint more, you're using more oxygen, and also in space they tend to use oxygen for air propulsion.
Right, and in space no one can hear you scream, so.
Well, I mean, there is sound in space, but that's a misconception, technically.
Oh, okay.
Not to be like.
Starfield has laser and explosions in space too.
Like I've talked about it before. Have you ever heard what Saturn and Jupiter sound like? It is terrifying.
Oh, it's nightmare. Yeah.
It's terrifying. Like that's genuine. I think they use.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Hell planets. That's where Doom.
You could use that. You could use Jupiter and Saturn's audio as like a basis for a horror soundtrack, and it would be perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, gameplay stuff. Mitch.
Whoops! Knocked my laptop.
He was like, yeah. So anyway,
on the topic of carry weight, carry weight is now called mass, which I think is really cool and fitting for the type of game this is.
What units do you think? Because I know this is always a discussion, like with Elder Scrolls or like Fallout, because you could just carry an obscene amount of equipment. What units do you think Starfield is massed in?
It's even worse in Starfield because the unit count is 1100 for this character. So if it's pounds or kilograms, we're freaking the Hulk.
Yeah.
I think it's grams.
Yeah.
And we're actually weakling.
Yeah.
Maybe it's milligrams. It's even smaller.
It's micrograms.
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 You can carry an ant with you at one given time. Honestly, on a heavy planet, that would make sense, where the gravity is so dense, it's like you can't even walk.
Right.
Yeah,
you
like
get out your
you
shit,
need
like,
an
look at this.
exosuit.
Do you think that would play into it? If you're wearing heavy armor, you go to a very gravity-heavy planet, like your movement speed and stuff like that's gonna be quartered.
I think it'll be required.
Or your weight capacity. Does your inventory change? Like your carry weight change based on the planet you're on?
Yeah, I think it does, because your gravity changes per world. Depending on the gravity is depending, like, say, how high you can jump.
Yeah, so then what happens,
that,
like, if you run into, like, a base, like, in Crete, and let's say they have artificial gravity inside, because that would have to exist. They have it, based on the ships, right? Because you're flying in your ship, so they have artificial gravity to some extent. If they have that in a base like the one that you go into in Crete, does your weight change in between when you're outside versus when you go in the base?
Wouldn't be too hard to do from a technical standpoint. I wouldn't think.
But is that too much realism? Because we know like Todd Howard cut out the fuel mechanic because he said it made the game boring. Which, for what it's worth, I agree with that decision. Like,
Is it realism where I can't? Can I do my no spacesuit run, or do I have to wear a spacesuit at all times? I need to know, Todd.
I want to play as like a deprived from.
I want that to be a
Dark
speed
Souls.
run. I want that to be a speed run category. How fast can you beat Starfield with no spacesuit? Spacesuit speed runs.
Gets to first planet.
You'd have to use a lot of exploits to like zoom across the map, but I think you could do it.
They do have an. Oh, sorry.
Or would they like say you have to put on a spacesuit if you want to leave the ship? They're like, no, you can't do this.
You know what? There was a thing. I don't know who picked up on this or if anybody did. But maybe I'm gonna make a big breakthrough for everyone here. Quick, make a video about it. There was an option when he was pouring through the helmets where it was like, turn off helmet in breathable atmosphere.
What?
That seems like the
You son of a bitch.
Exploded the Lorefield podcast.
You gotta go.
it's
Make your video.
Just the 30-second video. By the way, did you know it's like this YouTube? I mean, that would. Hey, yeah. That's so.
What?
That's again Mass Effect, right? So you can toggle your helmet.
That was a thing. Yeah, it was toggle helmet on or off if in breathable atmosphere. That was a
right.
thing.
And so when you would land on a planet,
and it didn't say
it would lock you. It would lock your helmet on. You couldn't just leave it off or whatever. Man.
So Lexi, to answer your question, yeah, you probably need at least a helmet. At least a helmet.
Okay, I'll just wear a t-shirt, some trousers,
Just
and a helmet.
nothing but. That'd be great. You just like go outside, the gravity's too hard. Your head first just like falls. You're like dragging your head to the ship.
Yeah,
I don't think you'd be able to. Your body in that kind of thing would like just explode if you didn't have some kind of suit on. I don't think it's gonna. I'm sorry to crush your dreams, but I don't think it's happening.
People, I don't know how many people know this. It might blow some people's minds. In space, you don't explode. Actually, in Fallout,
you freeze.
You either freeze or you burn, because there's no ozone layer. Exactly, and there won't be on every planet. Either if you're in direct sunlight, you'll burn. If you're not in direct sunlight, you will freeze. But you've got a few minutes before that will happen, so you've got a few seconds to skip around the planet and try and speedrun it.
That is terrifying. We live in a terrifying reality.
Yeah, and not to mention, different gravities can affect your bone structure and can mess up how you can walk. Like astronauts come back just from the ISS and they can't not walk.
Dragon Ball Z reference.
And not just that, for being in space, you're exposed to all this dangerous radiation, and you're more likely to develop cancer from being in space. Because you're exposed to all this radiation.
We were talking about the enemy in Starfield. It's cancer.
Yep.
So I wonder how they get around this. And as for artificial gravity, that's got to be fictional completely, because as far as I'm aware, I don't think that can exist in reality because of how gravity actually is. Mm-hmm. Unless in your ship, your shoes are like magnets and they magnetize to the floor. So everything's magnetized. So you kind of are always attached.
Say artificial gravity, I think, is what they would go with, to be honest. It just makes the most sense to me than having every single thing magnetized. It's a very kind of wonky lore reason for me to
and then
my brain to like.
You've also got the sandwich that doesn't float, so
yeah.
Unless I don't know, how have they got around it?
Because you wear a spacesuit and you don't try to do a naked run through Starfield.
There you go. You can have the helmet on, or like a.
I want that to be a.
It'll be a mod. It'll be a mod.
Yeah.
To answer your carry weight question, DeMarco, they do have the option of passing off carry weight to Vasco. So the mass number that we see could be a combination of your carry weight and Vasco's. And Vasco presumably has a very high carry weight.
So you think it's like a combined inventory by default? No, well, you don't need to bring Vasco with you though, so.
Oh, that's true. I was trying to think of a way they could.
Companion, like what if you're bringing Barrett or someone else?
I thought Vasco.
You don't know that many companions.
And in the demo, Vasco stays with the ship. He he stays with the ship while the player runs off.
Oh,
He
that's
walks
right, he does.
out, but he just defends her, I guess.
Good try.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of ways they could.
I suppose if you have another companion, they can stay at the ship and you can take Vasco, but I at the beginning, I don't think that would be possible.
I don't want to wait for him to climb over rocks and shit. I'm not,
He's
not
he's
doing that.
all terrain. Like, look at his feet. His feet are like, they're grip feet. Like, those things like stomping. You could probably ice picks that could like stomp in the ground in ice.
I feel like they would program. He would be programmed like with no collision, so he would just like be barreling through everything. So like you have like the base surface with geometry on top. He would just barrel straight through that, just clip right through it, and that's probably how
He
it's
just
designed.
awkwardly angles his way over it. So he's like doing this
going
ragdoll
sideways
physics.
around the mountain to get to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
horse.
like he's walking like this, and then he's like, whoop,
Exactly.
whoop.
That's what I expect. Yeah.
I'd rather see him like extendo leg, like Bender from Futurama style, just like.
Yes. Like
or
Inspector
he
Gadget.
just like
Yeah.
like jetpacks over a little hill.
Oh,
I'm sure.
Vasco.
Yeah.
Imagine he doesn't do that too. He like you hear it in the background. He'll never do it if you're looking at him.
My
But
God.
like you just hear the noises of him doing something to navigate those
turn
in
around,
these
he's like,
ridiculously
"What's
obscure ways.
That's
And then you
terrifying.
turn and look at him, and it's like a red light, green light situation.
Yeah, he doesn't
I think
move
that
till
would be
you
the
look-
funniest thing in the world.
That'd be
Like you
awesome.
just hear him like you know there's a stereotypical sound effect like in any cartoon where like somebody just gets an obscene amount of guns that comes from a robot, like just keeps stacking like
Yes.
and they just keep getting
Yes.
like more missiles on their back. You see something like that and you hear it coming from Vasco, but you never actually see. So like he's doing all these badass things and you just man.
You're like, I need to
Love
run and
Vasco.
take cover. You're being like shot at, and it's like, I need to run, take cover. You turn around, you hear like boom, like this big explosion behind you. Turn around, and Vasco's just like standing there, like, and there's like all these dead bodies like all around. You're like, come so
like
this
that
way. And you're like,
scene-
what the fuck just happened?
It's literally like God of War, no spoilers, but with the Atreus scene if you play God of War 2018, not the
Yes.
new one. Yeah.
Yes.
Damn
yes.
Vasco.
Yeah.
Damn Vasco, you're amazing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We got a few other clips. It's my segue.
Nice clips.
We got some gameplay of like different planets and stuff, and a really cool creature. I think we'll analyze those another day, just because A, we've been here for a long time, and B, because we have to save something for future episodes, or else we're not going to have anything to talk about yet again. So I think now might be a good time to move on to Damarcodude, your Bethesda origin story. This studio is so special because everyone has amazing memories they formed, and they have such a personal reason for why they love these games. So the floor is yours. Take as long as you need to tell us that story.
Nah, I've talked too much this episode. You do yours.
Mine?
Yeah, I've talked
Yeah.
too much, man.
I'm
just yeah.
I think you
So-
literally broke Mitch there.
I don't know what to do.
So funny tangent. We had, just before I get into that, funny tangent because we were doing a D&D campaign, and I wasn't running the game. My friend was, very close friend, and we came across this group of. It was like in a desert setting, and this group of like evil like gangsters came up in a sand ship that just pilots, and it sailed up next to us, and they were like, "We're gonna rob you" or whatever, and they're like, "We're gonna take you for everything you got." And my character just turns around and he goes, "But what if we join you?" And the DM, like the person who's running the game, just goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, what if we just join you? We don't have to fight. Like, we'll join your gang." And he goes, he's like, "I need a minute." And then, sure enough, that ended up becoming like a whole thing of our D&D. I flippin' love D&D. But anyway, a Bethesda origin story. Basically, long ago, in a land far, far away, a young Damarco waddled up to the computer screen and saw his friend playing this magical experience. No, kind of actually true. My cousins had an Xbox way before I did. Typically what actually happened would be my grandparents would buy us whatever new generation console, but my cousins who are the same age as me, we'd alternate. So they would get, like, I would get the PlayStation 2, they got the Xbox 360. I would get, like, the Xbox One, but, or I'd get the Nintendo Wii, whatever. We would alternate who got them. So they had gotten the Xbox 360, my cousins, before I did. And I remember my cousin messaged me and he said, there's this really cool game where like literally you run around and you cast spells and like you kill goblins and like you just do whatever you want and you have swords and magic and there's these giant cities and the world is massive. And I went, that's cool. All right. No, I was intrigued right from the get-go. I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. So I went over to their house, and sure enough, this game was Oblivion. And Oblivion was not new at the time. It wasn't at all. Like, it was old. And we're experiencing this for the first time, and they showed me, and we made our character, and we're going through the Imperial City's dungeon, and right in the Imperial City dungeon, this was, like, mind-blowing to me. Like, I was wielding my sword, and at the time, not like Skyrim where you can't have a sword, a shield, and cast spells. That's exactly what I was doing. So I had my sword, my shield, and I was casting fireballs at everything that came across my way. And I was like, and tiny little Damarco was like feeling this surge of power that he's never experienced before with these amazing visuals that I've never experienced in my life. It was incredible. Like the fact that you could have a goblin on the screen. What? It was amazing. So I'm going through this Oblivion experience, and that was the start of it, really, was because and you got out of the dungeon, and I think the same for anybody, right? When any Bethesda fan, it's just different games, when you get out and then you realize that opening moment, which is why it's so important for Bethesda. It's why Todd Howard stresses it as much as he does, that opening moment to the world. And you get out and you see the gigantic Imperial City behind you, the big, beautiful, realistic water and island and graphics and the beautiful alien-like temple that's right across the view when you get out the Imperial City sewers. And I was like, damn. And I would find any possible excuse to go over to their house and play it because I didn't have the game. They had the game. And I wasn't even a fan of fantasy at this point. I didn't know what fantasy was. I was like just living my life playing like, I don't know, Wii Sports. That was like cool. And then Oblivion comes along, and that was history, right? So from there, it just evolved, and we actually did what we called Text Oblivion. Now, little did we know that we were basically playing D&D, and we didn't even know it, because I didn't know what Dungeons and Dragons was. But we would stay up into the wee hours of the mornings on our flip. They had what was it? The LG NV phones or something, flip texting phones, and we would stay up really, really late playing Text Oblivion, where someone would go and they'd be the DM, which we didn't know what it was at the time, and they would text, you come across a group of goblins and they're all standing eating something, you can't tell what they're eating. What do? Here's 4 options. And now at the time, because we were young and we thought we were hysterical, no matter what option you take, it would just end up in you dying horrifically or like being maimed or murdered or just the worst possible things that like a child should not be saying, most likely. But that's what would happen. And we were like, ha ha ha, ha. I'm so funny, I killed your guy. But we would be doing that like for weeks, and we would take turns who was running the game. We were literally playing D&D without knowing it. And so from there it evolved into I would say that was because I had a PlayStation 2 and I played tons of PS2 games. Like that was the console that got me into gaming. But I think Oblivion was what, not only Bethesda, but was what made me realize the potential for what gaming could be, for where gaming could go, for how much it could evoke out of you. And then that would be followed up a little bit later by Batman Arkham Asylum, where like a very similar, I know it's not Bethesda, but a very similar situation would happen, where my cousin would text me and be like, he just had the demo for the game. Remember when demos were a thing? That was cool.
Oh, God, yes. Bring it back.
And he would text me and be like, yo, you have to play this. I didn't really care for Batman at the time. And he was like, you gotta come play this. You literally feel like You feel like Batman. And I was like, fine, whatever. And I came over and I became obsessed with Batman after that point. Like my favorite superhero of all time. And at the time, visually, that game was just out of this world. But as far as Bethesda goes, doing that, and I think Conversely, when I first played Fallout 3, I hated it. Hated Fallout 3. Couldn't play it. It was awful. I didn't understand it. The world didn't make sense. The gameplay was abysmal. Why am I shooting guns? I want to be swinging a weapon, but the melee combat wasn't as good, even though it was basically the same. Wasn't as good as it was in Oblivion. And there, cool. You have mutants, whatever. I want to fight goblins, man.
Where's my sword and shield?
Exactly.
Where's my bow and
Now I
arrow?
like Fallout. Now I really like Fallout. It took me a while to get like several times trying it. But yeah, Oblivion, man. That was it.
Wow.
That was
I
the start
love
of it.
that.
Still haven't played Morrowind. I struggle playing Morrowind. I can't get through it. It's just
the
it's
agility
too.
thing. It's the
It's dated
I
for me.
had to force myself to play it, but when I got into it, As soon as I stopped playing, I couldn't get back into it.
Yeah, it's the agility issue. Is because when you're like literally punching someone right in the face, and then it's like.
Oh, I just cheated. I set my speed really high and set all my combat stats to 100.
Yeah, because
I couldn't be bothered with that.
That they couldn't get, and they're like, "What if it's like you're missing because we don't want." They didn't understand
Because it was
damage
D&D.
scaling at the time.
It was D&D based.
right.
That's what it was.
It was a damage roll, is what it was. And
Yeah.
they
It was to
And-
show you progression, like, oh, you're swinging your weapon flimsy. You're not.
right. And then
really
once you get your
swinging it.
agility, you'll hit them every time, and it's like, well, imagine that. Imagine if I fucking. Sorry.
Because I'm looking at them,
doing
at least I
work
can
on
hit them.
myself. Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's a
Yeah,
great
and-
story. That's a great story, man.
Like, people shit on Oblivion for what it looks like. Like potato
Best-
people.
Best Bethesda game ever made.
It's great.
But when Oblivion came out, that was a very good looking game. That was Oblivion was one of the Xbox sellers. Now, Halo 3 was an Xbox seller, but I don't think that was not a launch. Oblivion was supposed to be a launch Xbox 360 title, but it got delayed till spring.
But
2006.
nothing like
The
that
only
had been
other
done.
delay, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
that's what that it's off topic, but that's where my they'll make Elder Scrolls 6 a next gen exclusive and a launch title because they'll finally have Elder Scrolls as an Xbox seller day one.
Yeah.
And the timelines will
console
line
seller,
up.
you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a great idea. I love that. I love that.
I
20,
do,
30.
other than the fact that it means we're not getting it for years.
Yeah.
It,
2030.
the timeline lines up about
It
4
does, yeah.
years. That's 2027 if they give them an extra year. Say this gen's 8 years instead of
It's
7,
70 by then.
then
70. Yeah.
2028 if they give them an extra year, or if the console gen lasts an extra year this year. Because we're already in year 3 of
Yeah.
this gen.
I don't
we're
remember when
approaching.
the Xbox Series consoles or the PS5 came out.
Late 2020. That was year 1,
Wow.
technically. Technically, it's year. Yeah, well, it's year 3.
We're in year 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 It's nuts. But yeah, so that's my Bethesda adventure. And then I think genuinely speaking, I think Bethesda is one of the best publishers too. Is the other thing, because I don't see a studio that's making something like, from you play Ubisoft and you got a lot of similar titles. You play EA, you get some similar titles. Obviously they stretch a bit more genres, I would say, than Ubisoft games do. Not dissing you if you like Ubisoft games, but Bethesda, you have something like Prey, something like Evil Within, something like but Elder Scrolls, and then even within just Bethesda game studios, you have Elder Scrolls and Fallout, which feel similar but are very distinctly different games. And then you have something like Doom, for your first person shoot, one of the best or Wolfenstein from Machine Games, and now you're getting an adventure game with Indiana Jones. Like, there's no publisher like Bethesda, and so I genuinely think that they're one of the greatest development publisher
Yeah.
teams in gaming,
That-
and we don't have anything similar. We really don't. There's nothing like a Bethesda game. It doesn't exist. You can't say Grand Theft Auto is. It's not. You can't say Red Dead is. It's not. You can't even take a game that has...
It's same
not.
with
Mhm.
Witcher. You are forever Geralt. and that's all you'll ever be. You're him, but in a Bethesda game, you're you, or the character you create is all of you.
And even Fallout 4, you were Nate, but like, which is my problem with the voice protagonist, is you were Nate.
You were either a lawyer or a soldier, but you could choose how they became what they became.
Exactly.
That is up to you, because they do leave that bit open.
And then the amount of skill, I think what really leans into that is like something like Witcher, you have very limited amounts. Yeah, you have magic, or you have sword, or you have alchemy. But when you look at big guns, laser weapons, small guns, you look at medicine, you look at all the different skill trees, the persuasion, and you know how many different skill trees you could branch down, or Elder Scrolls, one-handed, two-handed, magic, enchanting, thievery, all the sneaking skills that doesn't exist in other games. That pure width of customization, or any hybrid thereof of any of that. So
they're also the most inclusive publisher I've seen, and they are very inclusive with minorities, very LGBT focused, and it's well integrated. Skyrim, you had gay marriage, that was the start, and then you had, well, it wasn't the start, but you know, it was for BGS. Then what came after? It's slipping my mind, but they've always been quite inclusive. Fallout 76 as a non-binary character. Starfield, there's no sex slider. It's literally body type, because that's how the world is now. It's just, you choose your body, and you choose your voice. What? Nah, you don't choose your voice. Sorry, I've been playing too many other games.
body and walk. Because the walk is probably like masculine walk or feminine walk is what I'm like.
I'm gonna choose the most feminine walk I can.
Options, but I think it's
just the most masculine
or feminine, which has always been a thing in Bethesda games. Like, do you play as a male or female character? They walk differently.
Yeah, they say type 1 or type 2 for most things nowadays, which is nice. That way, there's no real specifics to it. So,
yeah.
I like that you brought up that it's well integrated. I think that's so true. They've done a very good job of like making it natural, and
they don't like force it down your throat kind of thing.
Yeah, because
like, it's there. I've seen people complain and say people from more Eastern countries where it's not as accepted. I've seen people say stuff like, I'm trying to think. Sorry,
it's more organically.
It's like
versus like
they don't understand it. They think it's being forced on them.
Yeah.
Why is this being forced on me? Like, I get it, but I don't get it. And it's like, it's not being forced on you. It's completely optional. You don't have to choose your pronouns as they, them. You don't have to do that. You can just leave your pronouns as he, him, or she, her. They're not forcing you to do anything. Body type, choose assigned male body type.
That's what role playing's about, right? Like,
it's an option. It's for the minorities, so they can be who they are and not.
I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
100.
It's been 2.5 hours. About 2 hours.
It's been more than that. I promise.
Really?
Yeah, it's been like 3.
Oh yeah, I'm an hour ahead, so it's been 3 hours, or hour behind, so it's been 3 hours.
Yep.
So we'll probably skip recommendations today, I think. Tune in next time.
Part 2.
Are you ready to send it off then? Any closing thoughts?
Are we doing handles?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, DeMarco, where can people find you?
Is this your longest episode?
No.
The second to longest was me, wasn't it?
I think.
I see 257. I'm looking.
Well, we trimmed
our longest was like 2 minutes under 3 hours.
Yeah. But the recording session was like 3 hours 40.
But when you chop down parts of the video, it gets shorter and shorter. So it's probably going to be at least 2.5 hours.
Right. Socials. Mitch button. You can find me basically anywhere at Damarcodude. So twitter.com/@Damarcodude, YouTube, Damarcodude. Those are really the only two. I technically have an Instagram, but don't even. You could find it, but just. I still feel like saying "don't try" is gonna make people want to do it, but there's nothing there to really say, to be honest. Like legitimately, there's nothing really there. So, YouTube and Twitter, the main socials. I'm pretty active on Twitter. If you actually wanted to reach out and talk about some stuff, feel free.
I tried to sell you in the intro. I don't know if I did a good enough job. You genuinely have been, in my opinion, the best Starfield creator for the longest time. You've been very, you haven't gotten the love you deserved in terms of numbers, not by a long shot. So you've been, I think, the best in the business for a long time covering Starfield. Very thorough, very balanced, and you make it entertaining. So yeah, super happy to have you here.
Super happy to be here. Sorry for if I seems like I've stolen your show at all at any point. Like it's never
time.
my
You're not
intention.
alone.
It's the Italian that comes out in me. Like I just.
It's way more entertaining whenever people come on.
Right, exactly.
Because there's a lot less dead air.
Yeah,
You should see. You should
things
see
that
the
are worth
recordings between me and Mitch. It's just there's just a lot of long pauses. Like, I'm just finding this.
I mean, we could do that if you want to reminisce about it. We can all just have a moment of silence. That's completely fine.
No, we edit those out usually. They don't make it in the final product.
Yeah, we have a lot of off-topic parts where I'll
that's
just rant about something else.
Yeah. Wolf, where can we find you?
You can find me right here, right now, right now. You can find me on YouTube at Red Wolf Renegade. I'm the only Red Wolf Renegade on YouTube, and on Twitter, Red Wolf Renegade. My handle is Red Wolf Renegade, the only Red Wolf Renegade. I'm tripping over myself, but hey, that's me. That's where you can find me, and I do a weekly podcast, and that's not what it's always going to be, but more things will be coming soon, like a Starfield video, because. Like I said today, I was like furiously editing, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't want to feel like I'm rushing anything, because I'm not Russian, I'm American. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Wonderful. And as for us, you can find us on Twitter at LoreFieldNet, where we share news, analysis, and finds about the game. You can also join us at the Lore subreddit, r/Lorefield. A little quiet over there, but hopefully it'll pick up so we can pick things up as we get closer to release. We're also on YouTube as Lorefield. You can subscribe for all of our podcasts and some video content like Tales from the Settled Systems. There are 2 episodes of that now. Probably start working on the script for the 3rd episode soon, so you can expect that in the future. We have a Discord. Join us and some wonderful members of the Starfield community for lore discussion and more. You can also find Wolf on his own YouTube channel, Red Wolf Renegade, like he said, and Damarcodude on his YouTube channel, Damarcodude. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye all.